5:59.
They like Darren hit it 3 times.
Supposed to hit it 3 times?
Yeah, Darren only hits it once, hit it 3 times. That leaves you twice. Good.
Don't go in there. Maybe 66.
We good?
Just one more moment while we're waiting on our YouTube feed to start. If you're here to speak for or against this rezoning, McAllister rezoning, or discuss the minor subdivision process, we've got these 2 sign-in sheets. And then if you're here for the special use permit, then I need you to fill out one of these green sheets and hand it in to me. And you'll just give us one moment, we're having technical difficulties.
Is that whether we want to speak or not? Just fill it out while we're here.
No, well, just
For
if
that.
you, no, that's if you're gonna speak,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
Folks, we do apologize. We're having trouble getting the YouTube Live to come up, so they're working with it now. So hopefully in just a few minutes, we'll keep you informed of what's going on. We do apologize for this delay.
So how's your daughter doing? Graduating from she's senior.
So long, but then they all have where she applied.
All right, we think we're good.
The March 17, 2026 meeting of the Union County Zoning Land Use Board is now in session. I am Rick Davis, the Vice Chair of the Union County Land Use Board. Also sitting on today's board is Derek Austin, Doug McClure, Drew Medlin, Mark Tilley, Charles Walkup Jr., and the alternates, David Brooks and Rick Marshfield. Also present are Mr. Lee Jensen, Planning and Zoning Director, Mr. John Ware, Senior Planner Zoning Administrator, Ms. Amy Griffin, who is Clerk to the Land Use Board, and Ms. Kelly Cope, who is the Attorney for the Land Use Board. All right, if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Tilley is going to lead us in prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us here today safely. Pray, Lord, you'll watch over this board and the decisions we make. Give us wisdom, Lord, to make good and just decisions. Bless all the people that come, and may we all have a safe trip back home. Pray, Lord, you'll bless our troops as they're in harm's way and protect them, and bless our country. We ask this, Lord, in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Justin. Okay, we'll be establishing voting members. All 5 regular members are here, and the 2 alternates are here. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Anyone? Not good. Do I hear a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please show by raising your hand. Thank you. All right, now the approval of the minutes for the February 24th, 2026 minutes. Are there any changes that need to be made to this that anyone has seen?
Make a motion to approve.
Second? All right, all in favor? Please show the right hand. Thank you. Okay, now we get into the agenda items. This board is a hearing of 3 types: the application for a variance from the regulations in the zoning ordinance, or appeal from a decision or interpretation of the zoning administrator or an application for a special use permit. And that's what we will be dealing with tonight, is a special use permit. The order of each case will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony, pro or con, must complete the green form to speak and to be sworn in. A planning staff member will explain why a permit was denied or why a variance is requested or the nature of the special use permit application. The board may question the planning staff member. The applicant may question the planning staff member. Then the applicant presents his testimony for the case. The board may question the applicant. The planning staff members and persons in opposition may question the applicant. The applicant may present sworn witnesses. They will be subject to cross-examination. Other parties wishing to speak pro or con will be giving reasonable time to present sworn testimony. They will be subject to cross-examination. The planning staff member and then the applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. After hearing the case, the board will review the case and render a decision. This is usually done following the close of the public hearing and the board's deliberation. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the Union County Planning Department after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must remain with the board. Please hand them first to the clerk for tagging. If you feel there is a conflict of interest of any member of the board or an associate that would prejudice your case, please let it be known at the start of your case. We are a quasi-judicial board and can only accept sworn testimony. No hearsay evidence is admissible. Appeal from this board is to the Union County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the day of the board's written decision to which to appeal in accordance with NCGS 160D-1402. All right, please, we'll ask everyone to please turn off any cell phones that you have with you. All right, first, we do have a quorum of 4.
Did we establish a voting number? All of our voting members?
Say again.
Did we establish our voting number?
Yes, the 5 members are here. The 5 regular members are here.
You actually have 6, so you'll need to make an alternate.
Okay, so the alternate will be Mr. David Brooks. Okay, thank you. This is the first one of these cases we've had in a while, so we're kind of getting back in the swing of things again. And I want to mention, too, our new members that are on the board. This is different from the planning use board. This is a quasi-judicial board. At this time, everything that's presented to the board is sworn testimony. So basically what I just read is the way we'll be handling it tonight. All right, introduction of the case. Is the petition complete, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we do need to swear everyone in that's going to be speaking. I apologize. Thank you, Mark.
Also got one.
Everyone that's going to be speaking? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this board is the truth and nothing but the truth in hand? So we're good. Thank you. We'll get it figured out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is special use permit 2026 SUP01, the Union Parkwood Battery Energy Storage Systems. There are 3 exhibits I'm going to enter, or I'm going to enter 2 exhibits into evidence, and then the applicant is going to enter Exhibit 3 here. But I have the Union County Development Ordinance and the agenda packet, which contains numerous documents along with the agenda. The applicant will be entering a hazard mitigation analysis and emergency response plan when he speaks. So this property is located at 5907 Lancaster Highway, more specifically identified by parcel number 04282-003B. The owner is Union Power, the applicant is Nicholas Cooley, and the property is zoned RA40 Residential Agricultural. The applicant, Ravenvolt, in coordination with North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation and Union Power, is requesting a special use permit to construct and operate a major utility facility consisting of an unmanned electric substation and associated battery energy storage components on property zone RA40. In order to minimize visual impacts, the applicant proposes to utilize existing vegetation on the property in conjunction with S2 screening as required by the Union County Development Ordinance. The proposed facility is designed as an unmanned substation, which will generate minimal traffic, limited primarily to periodic maintenance activities. The subject property was previously utilized for utility purposes. So it's already it has been used for something very similar. You'll also see in the packet, an impact study prepared by Hunter Howe was submitted as part of the application. The study concluded that the proposed major utility use will not substantially injure the value of abutting properties. Again, the subject property was previously utilized for utility purposes, and existing electrical lines are present on the site. The applicant states that the proposed facility footprint is smaller than the previous utility use and has been sited in close proximity to existing Union Power infrastructure in order to minimize impacts to surrounding properties. A battery decommissioning plan was also provided, and upon decommissioning, the site will be returned to Union Power. A little more background information. So the applicant is seeking a special use permit. According to Table 25.1, allowed uses, a special permit is required for a major utility, and Section 25020C of the Union County Development Ordinance defines major utilities. This is the site plan of the property. They've shown the batteries, the fencing, and the landscaping around the property. You can see there's some trees. And I will let the applicant get in a little more detail about some of what else is going on internally. I'm not an engineer. This is an aerial of the site. You can see this is what the property looked like as of 2025. Originally, there was an electric substation there that has been taken down. The property is zoned RA40 and is currently completely surrounded by other properties that are RA40. Our land use plan recommends that it stay a residential agricultural. This is a use that is consistent with the plan because utilities are allowed to be in residential areas. Here's the development status of the property. You can see there are some homes in the vicinity in red, and the property is outlined in black. There are environmental features. There are no streams or floodplain on the property. Transportation-wise, it's probably not going to have much effect on transportation, as the only visitors to the site will be maintenance. The current 2224 average daily trip along Lancaster Highway is 5,200 trips. Staff recommendations: must comply with all local, state, and federal regulations, must comply with the Union County Development Ordinance, and must fully comply with a site-specific plan. I feel like I had some pictures in here that I must have skipped over. No, I guess not. Any questions?
So this property we're speaking of was originally a substation for Union Power. It's been decommissioned now.
Correct.
So then these guys are going to utilize this same property for the battery storage facilities.
Correct.
And we'll get them to explain more about the purpose of this as we go along.
Yes.
That's all. Anyone have any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the applicant up. State your name, please.
Nicholas Cooley. Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Ravenvolt and North Carolina Electric Membership cooperation or cooperatives. I have Tim Gubitz here with me to assist in answering any questions. He is from NCEMC. We appreciate the opportunity to present this to you, present this request. This evening, we will present competent material and substantial evidence, including sworn testimony from qualified experts demonstrating that the proposed use meets the Union County ordinances.
Mr. Cooley, before, I'm kind of at a loss as what we're doing. Could you explain what the facility is going to consist of before you get further into this, so everyone's got a good idea of what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to?
Good evening. My name is Timothy Gubitz.
Is who?
Timothy Gubitz, or
Okay.
Tim, sorry. So I'm the Director of Energy Services and Technology at NCMC, and we are the wholesale power provider for Union Power. The relationship between the two companies is that we're both nonprofit electric utilities that serve the community that we're located in. And this battery is being installed to help offset the cost of electricity for the cooperative. And so it's part of our larger wholesale portfolio. And so essentially we're buying power cheap and then selling it whenever it's most expensive to offset that cost. And so what it consists of, am I allowed to go back to the other drawings? Okay, let's see. This picture here shows it the best. It's really 6 different batteries. We're putting them together in 2 pairs, or 3 pairs rather. Each of them consists of Tesla Megapacks, and so that is the most advanced technology that Tesla provided for this type of use. And so these are considered their most stable chemistry, which is a lithium iron phosphate. So that's the most advanced and most stable, safest technology that they have. Go ahead.
One question. The
Yes.
size of these batteries, to give us a better concept of what's going on, comparing to a lithium car battery.
Okay.
What's the size of this unit compared?
Right. I don't see the measurements on it, but the way I like to compare it,
30 foot.
30 foot, yeah, okay. 30 feet long, and then they're
8 feet.
by 8 feet wide. And so they're
How
also.
tall are they?
They're just over 8 foot tall.
So there are going to be 6 of these?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
And
Okay,
and you
thank
can see them lined up on the drawing there.
Okay.
And the way I like to think about it is every Tesla is 200 kilowatt hours for a very long duration Tesla, and then each of them will be roughly 2,000. And so that's breaking down to 10 Teslas lined up. So the way that they're designed is with redundancy built in, with safety systems built in, with fuses to commit equipment out of service if there are issues. And the whole goal of this is to, again, improve the resiliency and the reliability of the power that's being provided to the local community. As NCEMC, we have 17 different battery sites across the state, and so this isn't a new technology for us. And those are substation batteries, and usually we do co-locate these with substations, but Union Power provided this opportunity to develop this lot, or this property, because it was previously used for an electrical substation, so it's consistent with the previous uses. And these are monitored 24 hours a day, and our fleet this morning was used to help improve the power cost for our members, and they'll be used tomorrow as well. And so this is an active, ongoing part of our business to help our communities that we're serving.
So what you're actually doing is storing power at
Yes, sir.
night when it's cheaper,
Yes,
and
sir.
then actually sending it back out during the day when the price is up on it.
That's correct.
That's good.
Yeah, and
That's
so, okay, thank you.
Y'all understand what he's
That
saying
was a
now?
lot to answer that one question, sorry. Yeah,
You said there's 17 of these
across the state.
across the
Across the state, that's correct, not in your jurisdiction. Apologies. So we have some in Brunswick County, all the way down in the southeast, all the way up to Halifax County on the Virginia border, and then we have one in Surrey County. And so these are all to help across the state.
I do radio control, so
Mhm.
I'm familiar with lithium phosphate, but you said
Lithium
Iron?
iron, yes, sir.
phosphate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. They still make big fires.
Yes.
Okay, let's hold the
Yeah.
if you want, let's hold the rest of the questions.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted him to give us a kind of an idea of what was going on.
And- Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cooley. So I didn't mean that, I
Apologies. No.
apologize, we just need to know what we're hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Understood.
Thank you.
Understood. As I was saying, we're here to present substantial evidence from our qualified experts and to demonstrating that we proposed, apologies, demonstrating that the proposed use meets the Union County ordinances. As they have already addressed some of the findings of fact prior to my introduction, you will find that in our evidence, the proposed use complies with all regulations and standards in the Union County zoning district, will not materially endanger the public's health and safety, will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting properties, will be in harmony with the area in which it is located, and will be in general conformity of the comprehensive plan of Union County. As far as the zoning and ordinance, as you can see in the site plan, we included the setbacks that is part of the Union County ordinances. We incorporated the S2 screening. We'll also install a new fence. There is an existing fence around the property. We'll install a new fence with additional screening in that fence as well. It'll be 7 foot tall with an additional 1 foot of barbed wire, making it a total of 8 feet tall. Public health and safety. We designed this to meet the NFPA 855 standards and requirements. We would like to introduce the hazard mitigation analysis and emergency response plan into evidence at this time. At this time, I'd like to present testimony from our fire protection engineer. Andrew Blum is a qualified expert who has prepared the hazard mitigation analysis as well as the emergency response plan. Their testimony will address the public health and safety and demonstrate how the system has been designed to meet the applicable safety standards and mitigate risk. Andrew?
And what's his name again?
Andrew Blum.
Hey everybody, Andy Blum. I work for a company called Fire and Risk Alliance. I'm a principal fire protection engineer there. A little bit of background about me before we talk about some of the fire safety aspects. I've been working with lithium-ion batteries for a better part of the last 15 years or so. I sit on a NFPA standard, the National Fire Protection Association, 855. Nick just mentioned it. It's the National Fire Protection Association standard for stationary energy storage systems. So exactly what we're talking about tonight. I helped write that code back in 2016. We just put out the 3rd edition of that standard last fall. And it's kind of the industry standard around the country to be used for the installation of battery systems like this. So appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Ravenvolt asked us, Fire Risk Alliance, to work with them on this site, take a look at what they were proposing, analyze the site design, look at it for code compliance, and then also look at it for compliance or also to help develop 2 additional documents, one being a hazard mitigation analysis and the other one being an emergency response plan. So first, let's kind of talk about code compliance and what this hazard mitigation analysis is. So the North Carolina Fire Code has requirements for battery systems. just like buildings and warehouses and homes, anything else, right? So one of their requirements is how you lay out the site, so the spacing of the equipment, signage, fences, all that stuff that he was just talking about, access in, access out. So so that's one part of the hazard mitigation analysis that we do, is we do a prescriptive black and white code analysis, right? Because if you're not meeting minimum code, then, you know, who cares about everything else that we're talking about? You're not even doing the bare minimum. So we analyze the site to make sure it's meeting all the code requirements from the fire code perspective. The second part of the HMA, the hazard mitigation analysis, is truly doing like a risk assessment of that. And the fire code in North Carolina lists out very specific things that you need to do. So they give us a nice playbook, and that permits an engineer like myself to follow a good guide. And it also permits the regulatory body, so the fire marshal that's reviewing this report, they know exactly what they're looking at and what it needs to demonstrate. So in this instance, for the battery system, we need to be able to demonstrate 5 things for this site in order for the fire marshal to give this approval, right? So the first one is that you need to demonstrate this fire will remain contained to an area, right? So we don't want a fire starting here and spreading throughout the whole site. You don't want it spreading to vegetation and et cetera. So first approval criteria is you got to demonstrate you're going to keep it contained. Second approval criteria is you got to demonstrate the fire will be detected, and that if anybody's in the area, you know, you can basically evacuate before it's a dangerous situation. So just like this building has fire detection and alarm notification, right? We want to be able to detect the smoke and get people to evacuate the building. Same thing here. The third part that we need to demonstrate is that toxic gases will not be a hazard for anybody that's in the general area. So it kind of goes side by side with number 2. You know, we need to make sure that we can detect this, we can get people out. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
Now, which people are you talking about?
I'm sorry?
There's not going to be anybody on the property, is that correct?
Exactly right. So one of the great features of an outdoor battery system like this that's unmanned is that essentially people aren't here, aren't there all the time. They're not inside any of these cabinets. They can't enter them. Like they were saying, these are essentially 30-foot steel boxes that are filled with batteries. So essentially what we need to be able to demonstrate for this site is if there is a site personnel guy there, you know, standing 20 feet away, is he going to be able to exit and get out safely?
What about the local residents to the, is there like a pattern or a measuring distance? Do you have alarms, any type of alarm to alert the residents?
Yeah, absolutely. So for part of what we do within our HMA is we look around at the broader area too, right? So we're worried about the site, but we're also worried about the broader area. So in this case, like the nearest residence is about 300 feet away. And so for them, that's a distance that generally would not be impacted, right? Because if we're keeping the fire contained to that area, and then we're analyzing the toxic gases and making sure nobody on site would be exposed to them, then somebody 300 feet away would also not be exposed to dangerous conditions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The worst case scenario evacuation radius, what is it on this site?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is a question that's getting asked everywhere across the country, right? As these sites, they've talked about 17 sites in North Carolina, but these are going up everywhere in every state. So a number of fire department organizations got together, like the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the International Volunteer Firefighters Association, the NFPA, and a few others, and they put out a white paper on this about 2 years ago. And so their guidance is to make sure that you initially evacuate about 150 feet around the site to make sure that people aren't getting exposed to anything. So that is the current industry guidance, is to have that evacuation of 150.
So you're saying the worst case scenario fire that would happen here, there's no house close enough that would be evacuated?
That's correct, following that guideline, correct.
Okay, realistically and not following the guideline, what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, so our recommendation, so Fire Risk Alliance, we've got a team of retired fire chiefs and firefighters. They go around, they write emergency response plans that I'll talk about next. They give training to fire departments. So we give that guidance, that same guidance. And what we then recommend, right, and as part of our emergency response plan, is that just like any other fire event, you would take data to then drive additional decisions from there, right? Because we could talk about worst case, we could talk about best case, we could talk about 100 different scenarios. It's really difficult to talk about every specific fire scenario. So we try to give good guidance that will really address most situations, but with every fire, there needs to be, some fluidity to it, right? So at that point, what we recommend is gas monitoring. So you would check around the site, see if there is any gases that are getting picked up that are of a concern to the fire service, and then they can then make a decision to either widen, or in many cases, what happens is they end up reducing the evacuation down even more.
But do y'all go around to the area fire departments that would respond to this and go over them regulations with them to where they wouldn't be coming up there, there's a little fire, and out of the abundance of caution, they wake everybody up at midnight within a mile and evacuate them?
Right, understood. Yeah, no, we've, so far, with our participation, we've put together the emergency response plan. The next plan at this, if approved, right, is to then go around and give this training and do this coordination with the fire service so that they don't show up uninformed,
Okay.
go out of an abundance of caution, start evacuating people miles and miles away.
What is the procedure for extinguishing the fire once it starts? I've heard, and my reason is,
Yep.
I've heard so much that you can't put the fires out.
Yeah, you're
How do you deal
absolutely.
with it?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're absolutely right. One of the hardest parts of these fires with lithium-ion batteries is the suppression aspect of it. And so essentially what happens when they go into thermal runaway, they will off-gas flammable gases. And because of the way that these systems are designed, all right, so if you think about it, I've got a steel box, and then inside of it, I've got more steel boxes with batteries inside of it. So if those are on fire, if I'm standing outside 20 feet away with a hose, I'm basically just shooting water on a steel box. I'm not actually getting it to the seat of the fire, right? I'm not getting to any of the actual flames. So with that in mind, it's the approach that the fire protection community has gone, both North Carolina Fire Code and NFPA 855, is we have kind of moved away from an active suppression tactics. So instead of having sprinklers like we do here, we use more passive protection systems. So in a building, what would that mean? That means putting up like firewalls, fire-rated construction to keep things contained. So we're passively doing it. So what we've done with a system like this, the Tesla Megapack, is we've written it right into code. You need to demonstrate that your fire will not propagate from container to container. So like on the screen right now, they've got 6 containers up, 2, 2, and 2. They needed to, and they have performed full tests where they've burned an entire Megapack cabinet like that to show that with it on fire, it won't propagate to the next one, and it won't jump around an aisle to the next 2, and et cetera. So that's the approach that that many of the battery manufacturers in the fire protection community have gone to, is to not put active suppression in there, and then similarly, not put the burden on the fire service to have to show up and try to fight this fire either. They can allow it to consume itself. Again, steel box, it'll burn up kind of like a dumpster, and then when you're done, you're ended up with a burnt out box.
Are there any hazardous materials in this box after it's burnt?
Yeah, great question. So 5 years ago, many of these systems were using lithium-ion battery chemistry. So a lithium-ion battery, just so you know, there's many different ways you can kind of put it together. And so lithium-ion's kind of like the top of the family, and then there's lots of little sub-chemistries. So you can think of it like it's a chocolate cake, but everybody's kind of got their own little recipe on how they can put it together. So a lot of the EVs that you'll see will use a chemistry called NMC, so it'll have nickel, manganese, and cobalt in it, or maybe NCA, nickel, cobalt, and aluminum. And those are really heavy metals, rare earth metals, fairly toxic, difficult to get. Where the industry has shifted over the last number of years is to this lithium iron phosphate chemistry. It's predominantly iron-based, Iron's one of the most prevalent metals in the earth. It's also much more stable than some of those more reactive metals. And so from a toxic standpoint, they have really removed a lot of those heavy metals out of the battery itself. You still have copper in there, you still have aluminum, there's still iron, still a steel box. So, but those are things that we have in our homes, we have them in our cars, we have them in this building, right? Copper, all those things. So nothing in there that is abnormally out of character or unique that presents a significant toxicity hazard.
So if there was a fire in one of these batteries and it burns itself out, there's no danger of contaminating any of the soil around where this is placed?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we have found with similar events, because obviously there have been some fire events with outdoor battery containers like this. There have been a number of fires over the last 5 years, and talking less than 10, but several of them have resulted in people collecting water and soil samples, and they've all come back, and they get sent off to independent labs, EPA, et cetera, and they've come back at not toxic levels. So I can say, hey, look, there's nothing in that box that's toxic, and hopefully you believe me. But we also have the actual real-world fire events too, and the data reports, and I'm happy to share the links to all these because they're publicly available stuff as well, if it would be helpful, to where they have not picked up any of these toxins. Yes, sir.
I'm familiar with LIFE and LiPo both.
Yeah.
I prefer LIFE for a lot of reasons, but what's the telemetry and as soon as something happens,
Yep.
where does it go and who raises their hand?
Yeah. Great question. So one of the requirements for these systems is they have to be managed, right? And so there's a battery management system in general for the when to charge, when to discharge. It's keeping an eye on the state of health, the state of charge of everything, making sure the battery's basically operating within correct norms. And then if it's not, they'll shut it down. And then this is all managed at a site level as well by an energy management system, a SCADA system that gets picked up by these folks, right? Because they're keeping an eye on it 24/7. And then with Tesla as well, Tesla has their eyes on every battery system they have globally. So they have, one of the requirements they have is if you want to buy our cabinets, we have to have our eyeballs on it too. So they have a remote operations center 24/7 that also gets these, all these signals, the telemetry and everything related to the
Red
container.
light flashes somewhere.
Correct. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yes.
This facility, now you say it charges during the night or the day. How is that? Charges at night when the electricity is cheaper, and then during the day it sends out power to help lower your bill, right?
Correct. So,
Well, my question is, how many houses would this foot?
Thank you for that. So at peak demand, that's whenever your house is consuming the most power. We say 600 homes per megawatt. Roughly, it's a 10 megawatts. It's a 10 megawatt site, so we would say 6,000 homes.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and it's helping support the Parkwood substation that is located beside it.
But basically,
Yes.
like in the summertime, that would kick in during your
During-
hottest time of
that's
the day
correct.
where all the AC units is running
correct.
and all.
Yeah, and that's also, you might have heard about fuel prices and power prices during the recent winter peak we had.
Yeah, I experience them with Union Electric every month.
So our goal is to improve that and provide cost mitigation to that. And so this is one way we can do that. That's correct.
Okay.
What is the life of these batteries?
yeah. About 20 years. They're cycling on and off just once a day typically, right? And so the plan is 20 years. Like I think Nick talked about, there was requirements there from the ordinance in terms of decommissioning and things like that. So typically what happens near the end of life is there will be an analysis done, like, are these batteries still pretty useful? is there something newer that we should put in its place? Should we extend it another 5 years? That's usually, some type of analysis that's done, a little bit further down the road.
So after the 20 years, are they replaced, or they just decommission the whole system?
That would be a question for him. I can only tell you generally how it works for other sites.
We would make an economic decision to ensure that the power is as affordable as possible for Union Power and all of its member cooperatives. One thing I did want to mention is if there were an issue, we're quite a large company. There's Duke Energy, Dominion, and then NCEMC as far as the large power providers. So these systems are insured. We are committed to making sure that we leave no trace and restore things the way they were intended to be, as we agreed to with Union County. And so in the event of a cleanup or an issue, it's not a fly-by-night company that's operating the sites. It's the force of all of the cooperatives across the state that are united together to address these types of issues. So I just wanted to mention that
Do you mind
as
if I
well.
ask what the price of this substation will be?
We,
Millions and millions, billions, or?
no, rough numbers, it's commercially sensitive, but it's, I think, on the 12 million aspect, but that's over a 20-year life. And so it's amortized, and then,
Now, is this going to be, it's not going to come back to the customers to where they're going to help subsidize this, is it? To
No,
where
sir.
Duke Energy will come up with probably, well, the customers are going to help pay for this.
yes, sir. So we
So
are,
this is totally subsidized by Union Power and your companies
that's correct.
with
Right.
no cost, no energy cost to the consumer.
So there's the cost of goods that are incorporated, but it's all part of our larger portfolio, and it's used to offset that high power cost.
Well, it must have started
Yes, sir.
this year because my power bill's up about 40% from last year.
I understand.
Now,
I
hold
can,
on, you got me
yes, sir.
confused here.
Yes, sir.
So by putting this system in,
Yes.
is the rural person's power bill, is it going to be increased, or is surcharge down at the bottom of $50 to help pay for this, or is this, no surcharge is going to be added?
I'm not sure how Union, David, do you want to speak? I'm not sure how Union splits it out, but we sell power to Union Power as part of our portfolio. So this helps drive that down and control it.
I don't mean to be interrupting all
No,
this
you're
stuff.
fine.
There's a lot of information that we need to know
Yep.
of what
Sir.
impact it's going to have on the customers. I don't think it'd be right to do this,
Right.
and then the customers wind up and be paid $50 a month to help pay for this.
Yes, sir. We're also a not-for-profit company, and so there is no profit that is taken on it. So the revenue is to cover the cost. That said, we're committed to controlling rates and helping ensure affordable power.
Well, who's going to pay for it?
It's part of the broader cooperative. So over time, just like if you bought a car and then you pass it on to somebody, everyone, or I don't know, a church building, I guess is a better example. The church pays for it, so we're all chipping in as cooperative members to pay for that.
So there will be an increase in the monthly power bill to the customer.
The goal is that this beats that price and controls that cost. So as opposed to being open to the free market and that the peak power charges that we can't control, we're pulling this into our broader portfolio to help control that.
I don't mean to sound dumb, but
No,
I
you're fine.
didn't understand that. Is
No,
there
no.
going to be an increase to the customers because of this?
It's to control cost. So we can't,
You're still not answering my question.
no, I know, but it's to say, can I predict the economy? Can I predict fuel cost? Can I predict a whole lot of things? So we have an all of the above approach. So our goal is to control costs as much as possible as a nonprofit company.
So you're saying there will be an increase in the monthly power bill for the customers to help pay for this?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it, not necessarily, thank you.
okay.
So this is all part of that larger portfolio.
Well, let me ask you this. Is
Yes,
this,
sir.
So their hope is that it will build up enough power savings in the nighttime that it reduces the amount of money spent in the daytime.
That's correct. I can confidently say the energy that we sell at peak is much cheaper with a battery system than if we had to buy it on the market at peak.
So you're saying this should offset the cost where the customer's power bill won't be going up any?
Correct. So
Okay.
based off of the fact that we're building this site and all of our economic evaluation is that at peak, and this I can say confidently since I don't have a crystal ball.
Well, the reason
Yes, sir.
the reason I'm asking all this is the past power bill for
Yeah.
last month was as high as it's ever been.
Yes, sir.
And the rural customers out here in Union County
Yes, sir.
are gonna say, what in the world have y'all done? Our
Right.
power bill's already $400.
Right.
So you're saying you're approving this substation to pay for this $12 million project,
Yes.
and our power bill's gonna go up? Well, no,
No,
not necessarily.
Not
It
necessarily.
won't go up.
That's right.
If the offset between selling the lower cost of the rate, it will not go up.
That's correct. And we purchase, if we didn't have this site, we can use this site at half the cost of the open market, is the best way to say it, in big, broad numbers. So instead of that peak power that we have seen, and is the most expensive just by the way that fuel is mixed in, the efficiency of electricity, this system, on average, is able to sell power at half the cost than if it was exposed to the open market. So again, back to the control aspect of, we're using this to offset that very expensive peak power.
Well, the thing, that I'm just trying to get this
Yeah, go
cleared
ahead.
out, because you look at a senior citizen that's on
Yes,
a
sir.
fixed income, well, the average person's on a fixed income.
Yes, sir.
You only make such amount an hour,
That's right.
so you've got to watch out for the extra charges. And I'm just making sure there's not going to be any extra charges coming in, but what you're saying is producing it at a lower rate and then selling it when the rate's high should keep the power
That's
bill to
correct.
the average consumer the same, if not maybe a little bit less.
That's right, and that's our
Okay.
commitment. We too are concerned about all of rural North Carolina and people on fixed incomes. So we serve 45% of the land mass, North Carolina's electric cooperatives, compared to the other 55% being served by public-owned utilities or municipalities. Whenever we look at our number of customers per line, it's 10 customers per line or per mile of line compared to 33 for the public utility. So our commitment to the community is to provide services at a nonprofit rate as affordably as possible. And so we can't control larger economics, but we do, and that's my job at the company, is to make sure it's as affordable as possible.
Well, I got a quick question here. You know, I've been on
Yes.
this board a long time. And several years ago, we had a company come through that wanted to stick solar panels everywhere.
Yes, sir.
That was gonna offset the cost. Well, then after they went online, the reality of it was Duke Power took it over, and it turned out to be something that offset their carbon footprint. So just cut
Right.
through all the stuff here. Is this something else that we're gonna pay for as customers to offset the company's carbon footprint? So they satisfy some other regulation?
Yeah, these were approved by the company after the One Big Beautiful bill. And so this is based purely off of economics that were incorporated from the One Big Beautiful bill, that wound back a lot of the carbon footprint. So the goal here is strictly resiliency and reliability for the community and affordability.
Okay.
And it seems to me that another related question to ask would be, if you don't do this now, though it may increase bills somewhat now, if we don't do this now, is it going to cost a lot more later on?
Right, and so I was trying to reiterate that we're trying to control cost. So this is one control. We don't know what the future holds, but we can make an economic evaluation to build the project now for that control aspect. And whenever we talk about, this is considered distributed energy resources, and the controllability of those is part of their, excuse the pun, part of their power, is that we can control them. We're not subject to the sun or the wind. We're subject to the market and making economic decisions to drive affordability and control. So case in point, no one saw the oil prices increasing due to world conflict, but this is insulated from that based off of being able to buy it when it's most affordable and sell it to improve that affordability.
Well, the only thing I have concerns about it is the fact that this would be the 18th one in North Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, when there's 1,800
Mhm.
in Everstate,
Mhm.
the cost of building that's gonna be a lot less
Yes, sir.
because it's like everything else. If you, first time you bought a flat screen TV, you had to, mortgage your house to do it. And now you can go to Walmart and buy one for $175.
Right. So this project was selected and is being built strictly on the merits of the economics currently. And so based off of that, we see it as a cash positive aspect. And it might get cheaper over time, but we also need to learn lessons now. And so it helps us make those cheaper in the future as well.
Looks like you got room for 6 more.
So there's two aspects of that. One, making sure that we can move around, move equipment in and out. We also, once concrete's in the ground, we want to make sure that we can, it's in a good spot. So we have room to revisit the site if needed, not necessarily for batteries, but our hope with the Tesla technology is that we can create a microgrid. This is located, and that's one of my areas of specialty. This battery is located right by Parkwood High School, so we don't know what the future holds, but the high school is what we call a community lifeline. In the event there was a long-standing outage, being able to use this for resiliency to even power the high school. And so we don't know what that might require or what it would be, but we won't change the site to add more batteries based off of the approval of the site as designed without revisiting the zoning board. But yes, astute observation.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you.
get back.
We'll come back. Okay.
Now we'll get back to Mr. Nichols. I guess. There you go. You're the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm the guy. Andy Blum, Fire Risk Alliance. So I think I was talking about fire somewhere there. Where we left off, I think we was talking about, where did we end up on? Emergency response and evacuation distances. Monitoring, that's where we ended up. Thank you for that. Yeah, so monitored both by Tesla's remote operation centers and as well as the energy company's operation center. So kind of two independent set of eyes that would be keeping tabs on this site 24/7.
I was a facility manager, and all I remember in NFPA was lead acid. So I assume this is another big subset.
Yeah, obviously, so obviously kind of a leap forward with energy density from lead acid to lithium ion. It's why we're not really making battery systems like this with lead acid. There's just a lot more energy you can get with lithium ion battery. That's why all our cell phones have a lithium ion battery in it. You could go all day without your battery dying, hopefully. Some of them, yeah. So that's the monitoring aspect of it. So I think I was kind of describing the HMA and then answering questions throughout. So that's kind of the purpose of the hazard mitigation analysis there. It's a code requirement. It has to be turned in just like a drawing set to the authority who's reviewing the project. They have to review it. They have to approve it. If it's not up to snuff, they'll ask for changes. They'll ask for more information, right? Just like if a design of a building wasn't to code, they would push back and require it to get brought up. So that's the HMA side. We talked a little bit about the ERP as well. The emergency response plan, it's a little bit less technical, right? The HMA is like 50, 60-page engineering report. If you want to go to sleep tonight, I welcome you to open it up. You'll probably be asleep within minutes. Emergency response plan is meant specifically for the fire service, right? So we're not getting into every minute, nitty-gritty technical detail. We're trying to provide them with good information to really allow them to make decisions when they're there on the fire scene. So general layout of the emergency response plan, you have like a contacts page, right? The key people, like if you show up and there's a small fire there, who do I call? Who do I call from the energy company? Who do I call, for these folks? Who do I call at Tesla to talk to them? Have all that information. The second section usually will outline the site itself, the layout. Again, this isn't a massive site. There isn't 1,000 battery containers here. It's 6. But we still want to introduce them to, here's the battery containers, this is where the control panels are, this is where the disconnects are, here's the gate, here's the entrance, the fences, all that stuff, right? Then we'll usually talk about those fire protection aspects in another section. Section 4 will go through the hazards. What are the chemical hazards on site? What are some of the gas hazards? What are the physical hazards? Of course, this is electrical, so what are the electrical hazards? We present them with those different hazards. These are all things that they are used to dealing with, just not at a battery site, right? All put together here, right? So this is new, so we want to try to give them all that information. Then the next section will talk about tactics, what to do when they show up, what you should be looking out for. Since, again, most of our recommendations and the fire services recommendations are non-intervention, we're not looking for them to drive through the front gate, start spraying water everywhere. We don't need them opening up or ripping into cabinets or containers. All that's going to do is put them in danger, and it's not going to necessarily make the situation any better, right? So just like they're not going to blow through gates and start working in a substation for these guys, we don't want them doing the same thing here. They're going to manage the incident, they're going to take care of the community, they're going to make sure people are safe, and then they're going to contact the appropriate people and get the site safe, organized, and cleaned up so that nobody gets hurt.
So basically, first responders aren't to do anything.
So I hesitate to say yes to that, because that is kind of the gist, but.
Does 855 give that training portion
Yeah.
on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and actually near and dear to my heart. So one of the best things I think we did with NFPA 855 is we actually put in a requirement that requires an emergency response plan, and it requires training. And that's not something that you'll find in, like the National Electrical Code or some of these other codes. Realizing batteries are new and that the fire service needs this help, we basically put the onus on the owner to pay for the emergency response plan, to pay for the training, and then there's also a requirement within there for annual refresher training as well. So if new fire service personnel come on board halfway through the year, if they're never trained, what if they're the guy that shows up? So the annual refresher training basically makes sure that that's not a situation that comes up.
I have a question for this gentleman.
Okay.
About 35 years ago, over around Kinston,
Okay.
they had a program, the state did, and when you bought your tag, you paid more for it for your car, and they all started out with GIS.
Mm-hmm.
And then the farmers around that area actually helped innovate the global farming system. And the thing was, for them being the start of it and help getting it started, they got a long-term discount on using the satellites. Being guinea pigs for this, is at some point the residents of Union County might get something in return?
Yes, sir. So it goes into some of our contracts, but we do have a hosting capacity credit that Union Power gets, and so that's part of the benefit to the local cooperative. And so Union Power has been a member of NCMC since its inception, and that's part of our commitment to, we call it really the distribution of benefits. So we want to make sure that the local community sees those benefits, so that's part of that. And then what I would also say is we are committed to innovation, and that is why we're doing this. Duke Energy just now brought on their first batteries, but part of the rural cooperative story is that innovation is near and dear to us, and you bringing up the GIS thing, or GPS, I believe it reminds me of that. For rural cooperatives, public utilities didn't want to go out into the rural areas because it wasn't profitable, but rural communities came together to do this, and so this is part of our continued efforts to improve local rural communities across the state. So.
In case of an emergency, what is the response time from the people that knows what to do? I know the fire department will be there immediately, but they can't go in. What's the response time of the proper technicians being there to handle whatever has to be done? Is there a long response time, or is it short, or do you keep people close in case something happens?
Yeah, because there's remote folks, right? And then there's also boots on the ground that we want to have. So from a remote aspect, you can contact both these folks and the Tesla Remote Operations Center 24/7. So you can call their number, say, hey, I'm at the UN Parkwood site, something's going on. They'll say, yep, we see it, and then they can kind of talk through what they're seeing on their end from an alarm aspect.
Who is they you're talking about?
Tesla's Remote Operations Center, and then
I'm
also.
talking about the people that would be there.
Somebody was driving by and saw smoke.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the first responders showing
Well,
up.
it'd be Union Electric would have somebody trained to cooperate with the other people, correct?
Correct. And so that's usually how there's the service technicians, there's the local presence that would then be that local point of contact to come out to the site and act as that liaison. It's very similar to like a substation emergency, right? You don't wait, you call the number on the fence with the utility, you wait for that liaison, and you work with them to, you don't want them just moving into the site and getting themselves in danger.
But surely you guys have some type of alerts in case something starts going wrong, that somebody's alerted.
Yeah.
There's telemetry.
So there's two aspects that Andy mentioned. One is the 24-hour Tesla team, but we also have a 24-hour remote operations center. So part of all of the sites that we have in the NCMC portfolio, we receive alarms up. So
Okay.
kind of the big if statements is if it didn't get propagated up and somebody saw an issue locally, local team would be trained on the ERP to respond. So
Okay.
it's several layers to this.
Okay. You made a comment a while ago also that it's all got to be done with minimum requirement. They got to meet a minimum program. Are you above minimum, or are you just right at the minimum?
Yeah, no, so like code is always just the bare minimum,
The bare
right?
minimum.
And so where the hazard mitigation analysis really kind of comes into play is that it's a risk assessment looking at broader fire, toxicity, hazards, right? Not just meet black and white minimum code. So that's where the HMA really kind of broadens it, and you'll see it where we make several recommendations to make sure that we are going above and beyond.
Okay.
Notifications more than hardwire? Is it RF, or how's the signal getting to wherever if the lines are down?
So I'll let him answer how he plans on putting internet here.
So we will use remote cellular networks and Starlink, and we will also have a fiber communication if we do have an e-stop event. So this all goes back to that emergency. Even Union County would be notified in that event. And the Union County notification is via fiber. We're running fiber between this site and the other site, so it's hardwired, as it were, in that regard. So.
And it's fairly typical. Usually have a hardwire, and then you have a cellular backup, so that if one goes down, you still have backup.
Does anyone else have any questions for him?
I have a question. The event one of these batteries goes down and fails,
Yes, sir.
how's it get replaced?
So we would work with Tesla to understand what the impact was, and then we would work to restore the site with Tesla. There's that non-propagating aspect that Andy pointed out, and so there'd have to be an assessment of how much damage was there, and then is it a total loss, and we would lean on our insurance policies and warranty claims and that aspect. So it would be a question of, is it just one cubert? Sorry, that's just like one little section of a cabinet. And so do we just pull that out and replace it? Because you can have local non-emergency failures, right? Or just local small component failures, and they can pull that out and replace it, which we've seen done. And so then the asset evaluation would go into effect for a much larger issue.
Does Tesla provide any type of warranty on that product?
They do. It's a 15-year warranty, and part of that warranty is having that remote communications. And I think it's also worth saying, with the large fleet that Tesla has, this isn't a fly-by-night battery we're installing either. So they have a whole lot of telemetry and a whole lot of data to predict when an issue could arise. And so that's worth noting as well, that these things, they continue to operate and they continue to gather data to be able to tell when it happens.
Lifespan.
Yes, sir.
Battery,
Yes, sir.
but they're only giving you a 15-year
So that's on the capacity warranty, and then we can extend that out further with a long-term service agreement, but we start to visit that at that 15-year life. So for this project, we didn't purchase that ahead of time. So again, going back to that economics evaluation, it's 15 years. And so what I envision, because we're not-for-profit, if there's still good life in there, if it's safe, we'll continue to operate it up to that 20 years because we've already purchased it at that point because the loan would have been paid off. So it's just more icing on the cake at that point.
Well, anyone else? I got one last question.
Yes.
Of the 17 sites you're operating, what is the worst disaster you've ever had with any of them?
We did have an electrical issue that resulted in a rack catching fire, and this is, and then that self-extinguished. It was located to one issue, very much like the non-propagating aspect, and that was the extent of damage. That one section is being replaced. The site is back up and operating, and there was no impact to anyone local or remote due to that. And
So there's never really been a major disaster then?
yes, sir. You said what is the worst, and that would be the
Yeah.
worst.
That would be the,
Yes, sir.
but that was just one little small part of it went bad.
That's correct.
There was no effect on any of the community or surroundings or anything because of that?
That's correct. It was self-contained.
Okay.
Was that only in North Carolina?
That was in North Carolina.
Have you seen anything across the nation
It-
that
and
has reacted differently?
what I would say is you have to consider the technology too. So that was a lithium iron phosphate battery. And so for me, that's a really good example of how bad can it get insofar as those cells, because we're committed to safety as part of NCMC, they were tested with an FPA, I forget the number, for non-propagation inside of a module. Do you know it offhand?
UL 9540.
That's it, UL 9548. And so just like these Teslas are. And so I just want to caveat it by that because you have to kind of apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
I get that.
So, yeah.
The only reason I asked is because you have explosive hazard listed in your hazard plan or your, have we ever seen any explosions out of a battery pack?
Do you wanna-
Manny Blunt, Fire Risk Alliance. So to your question, with the explosions, we haven't seen any catastrophic explosions or deflagrations that have hurt anybody or extended anywhere off-site, anything along those lines. There have obviously been some battery fires. Doesn't take long for you to Google it and see. I think last year there was 3 or 4 fires across the country where they had incidents. They remained fires that remained contained into that area. They didn't spread off the site. They didn't have an impact on the community in terms of with these self-contained battery containers.
Is that, do you want to draw a difference between Moss Landing?
Yeah, so, and that's why I preface it, right? So Moss Landing is a fire that gets discussed a lot. It's a fire in a battery that occurred in California. It's in Moss Landing, California, if you want to look it up. It was last January. The major difference there is that what they did in that situation was they took a decommissioned power plant, so it was about 60,000 square foot building, and they basically just packed it full of batteries, like open rack batteries. And they didn't separate it, they didn't compartmentalize, they didn't put up controls to keep it contained. And so they also used, because it got built 6-7 years ago, they also used a battery chemistry, nickel, manganese, cobalt, which is a little bit more energy dense, but also can fail more catastrophically. So in that situation, it's still under investigation. I don't know when we'll get an actual report out because I'm sure there'll be litigation too, but the whole building burned down and they lost the entire site in that case. And so in that situation, they did have evacuations for a few miles around the area because they were really concerned about what was going on. But again, that was a 60,000 square foot basic building that was all up in fire. These, at 30 feet by 8 feet, you're talking 200 square feet. So that's the approach that we've kind of gone away from. 10 years ago, people were, let's throw all these in buildings and make really big battery buildings. And then what we realized as an industry is this isn't the best approach. Instead, let's make these smaller containers. Let's put them outside so people don't have to go inside. We don't have to get anybody hurt. Nobody has to go inside to maintain it, or the fire service doesn't have to go in for search and rescue. Let's install them outdoors. Let's put the onus on the OEMs. So they put the onus on Tesla and the other battery manufacturers build your boxes, don't let it propagate. And that was all, and that's kind of the way that the industry has shifted from the way it was like 10 years ago.
That one was open rack. Open rack.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I hope you understand, we're not being critical about this. We're trying to protect the neighbors that are adjoining this property, because that's our responsibility as a board to do the right things for the people that could be affected by it.
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, you guys are asking all the same questions that I hear across the country for sites like this, and you're asking the things that are important. You know, is it going to impact people? Is it going to impact our fire service? How are we going to handle an emergency? So,
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for these two guys?
Will the site generate any noise, any buzzing, humming?
I'm not a noise expert. I'll just do fires.
My wife tells me I'm a noise expert. No, I'm just kidding. That's not on the record. As a professional, I am not. We do have a noise evaluation that Nick can speak to as well.
So it was submitted as part of the evidence. The document shows this is a 2-hour battery system. So they have 9 fans within each one of those 6 cabinets. They conducted a study and they found that the average sound decibel from 10 meters away, which is approximately 32 feet, is about 60 to 65 decibels. So at this point, that furthest left battery is approximately 50 feet from the edge of Lancaster Highway at this time. So the property that is adjacent likely won't even hear these batteries at their distance of approximately 300 feet from.
The highway is noisy.
What's that?
The highway is.
The highway, yeah, it's on par with your typical urban sounds.
Okay.
Since on the way in, I met 2 gentlemen sitting back there who I believe are the closest house across the road. They came to listen about it. I would like to hear their feedback about it
Okay,
before I make a decision.
Yeah, we'll listen for the pros and the cons against it. So we'll bring the ones that are against it up in just a few minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Great line of questioning from all of you guys on the hazard mitigation and the emergency response. Is there anything else before I transition?
I think we're good.
All right. Speaking of the neighbors, we conducted a impact study specific to this project. And at this time, we'd like to present testimony from our licensed appraiser. Hunter Howell is licensed here in North Carolina, and he conducted the impact analysis that is part of your agenda packet already. Hunter.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hunter Howell, and just to give you a little background about myself, I'm a certified general appraiser, and I work with Paramount Commercial Appraisers, and I've been appraising properties throughout North Carolina for approximately 12 years, working on a wide range of valuation assignments. And I've also testified at numerous quasi-judicial hearings similar to this one, addressing the same types of land use compatibility and property value considerations that I'll be discussing here tonight. And as he mentioned, I believe the report that I did provide is in the agenda. If you haven't read it, I'm going to kind of briefly go through it and have to answer any questions once I kind of get over the meat and the bones of everything. So I was engaged to analyze the proposed battery energy storage system, often referred to as a BESS, plan for 5907 Lancaster Highway here in Union County. My role is to present the factual findings from my analysis and offer my professional opinions regarding compatibilities and potential impacts on the surrounding property values. The proposed project consists of a Tesla Megapack system on approximately 1 acre parcel. The site was previously operated as an electrical substation, but all of the old infrastructure has been removed. The new use is actually less intensive than what existed there historically, with very limited traffic and minimal ongoing activity. The property sits in a semi-rural area surrounded mainly by agricultural land with single-family homes located across Lancaster Highway. Based on its footprint and operating characteristics, a BESS is generally considered a low-impact infrastructure-oriented use, and its placement in this type of setting is consistent with common siting patterns throughout North Carolina. To confirm my land use harmony, I reviewed several other BESS locations in Ashboro, Hubert, and Goldsboro. These facilities are also located near rural residential areas and agricultural tracts, and they function without land use conflicts. This shows that the proposed use aligns with the similar developments elsewhere in the state. A major part of my study focused on whether BESS has any measurable effect on nearby property values. To evaluate this, I conducted a paired sales analysis in 2 neighborhoods. They consist of Brick Chimney Landing and Magnolia Green, where homes sit directly across from operational BESS facilities. In both subdivisions, the home immediately adjacent to these systems sold essentially identical price levels as comparable homes elsewhere in that same neighborhood, so completely adjacent and on the opposite sides of the same neighborhoods. There was no meaningful difference and no indication that proximity to one of these sites affected sales price. I also reviewed a 2025 Wharton Research Scholar study analyzing 178 BESS facilities nationwide. Their findings were consistent with what I observed locally. There's no significant positive or negative impact on nearby home values associated with BESS installations. Therefore, taking all this into account, the character of the area, the former substation use, comparable BESS sites in the state, the paired sales data, and the broader research, I concluded that the proposed battery energy storage system is compatible with the surrounding land uses and is not expected to negatively impact property values in the area. And that's basically kind of a general synopsis of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And as we've been kind of touching on throughout the night, harmony with the area. It was previously an existing substation that was decommissioned. What we're proposing now is a much smaller in scale, as you can see in that photo. If you look at the shadows on the north and on the street side, the reduction in size is surmountable. I believe it's 30 to 45 feet off the roadside, based off of Union County ordinances. The black dots that are street side on the drawing that you're looking at, those are existing power poles from Union Power, and I believe the 3 in the middle, those are removed or to be removed. We're also providing screening in our fencing, and then the S2 screening with the shrubs and trees to minimize visual impact.
I have a question. Are y'all gonna be required to put trees up around that?
Around the whole site?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, based off of the ordinances, we are.
That's something we need to think about in the future, because I'm seeing a lot of these substations where they're having to go in and take all the trees down around them. If we're requiring them to put some kind of screenage up, it ends up costing us money to get rid of it in the future. We need to think about that.
Okay. And then as part of the Union County's comprehensive plan, the proposed use would be allowed if the special use permit is approved, and therefore is in general conformity with the comprehensive plan. At the conclusion of this evidence, we respectfully request that the board approve this special use permit, as the record will demonstrate that all required findings of fact have been satisfied, and we'd be happy to answer any further questions that you guys may have.
Anyone else have a question? All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this special use permit? Okay.
Good evening. I'm David Gross. I'm Vice President of Engineering and Operations for Union Power. I'll remind the board of the relationship that we have with NCEMC. We buy power from NCEMC. We don't operate power plants. We don't operate battery systems. We buy power from them and we resell it to our local member owners like yourself, Mr. Tilley. And I'd like to address one of your questions very directly. There will be no line item surcharge on the bill for this, okay? We buy power from NCEMC. They own a lot of different power plant resources. They have contracts to buy power. They have contracts to buy coal-fired, natural gas. They have ownership in nuclear power, right? They procure that and sell it to Union Power. And that is our relationship with them. We support this project because we believe that it is in the interest of our member owners, and we believe that it is going to help us manage power costs. Because they can charge these batteries with less expensive power at off-peak periods of time and provide it to Union Power at that cheaper cost when electricity is extremely expensive. And that is a trend that has been going on in our industry. I've been in this business 30-something years, and every one of those years, my number one goal was to keep the lights on. You know, just a few years ago, we got into a shortage situation where we had to shed load, okay? And after 30-something years of trying to keep the lights on, I was the one who had to push the button and shed load here in Union County and the other 4 counties that we serve. So we support this because we believe that this project is going to help us avoid that. I can't guarantee you that it won't still happen, but a project like this will help us manage the peak demand on our system, and we believe that it's going to help us manage costs.
Do you look for this to be expanded if it works out good to other parts of the county?
I don't know that it will be expanded in Union County necessarily. I do think that batteries will help this industry significantly. We have this industry and the public, you've heard a lot about solar over the years, right? The term we use as engineers in our business is dispatchable. Solar is not dispatchable. If the sun's not shining, it's not doing us any good. Right now, we can take other forms of energy like solar and improve it by charging batteries with it, right? Not just with it, with nuclear power and everything else, right? And make sure that we have power when we need it at peak, and we have the economics of being able to charge them up with off-peak periods. I've had some interesting debates over my career about, solar in particular. People were very in favor of solar, right? It doesn't, you don't have to man the power plants, it doesn't consume any fuel, doesn't produce carbon, that kind of thing. And I've always said, I think batteries are really what's going to help this industry. And we just haven't had that technology until just recently. So we are very much in favor of this project. The particular reason that we offered up this site was we knew that there was an existing utility structure there. We built a newer, much larger state-of-the-art facility down the road, which we came before this board several years ago to permit. We decommissioned the old substation. When we were approached about doing this project, we realized that we already had this area, and we believed that they should pursue this avenue because we're not converting any other forest land or any other farmland, and we can put it on an existing site where there was already a utility structure before.
Now, will this be a benefit for the entire Union County or just for the folks in that area down there?
It's a blended cost type of thing. It's going to impact all of the members and ratepayers of Union Power. And we serve 5 counties all the way up near Salisbury, all the way down the state line. But also other co-ops in the state, other rural consumers that are part of NCEMC. Because remember, this is a network of 17 other battery systems.
So it's basically a benefit for all of Union County, not just the Parkwood area?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, just a scenario here.
Yes, sir.
Say there was a catastrophic storm that cut power off to Union County for a little bit. With this system here, would the people in that area were close there, would they still benefit from this? How does that work?
Not initially. Not initially. Initially, what would happen is if the power went out, this thing shuts down. Okay? Mr. Gubitz alluded to something called a microgrid, and that is something that we might pursue down the road with this, right? To be able to, okay, the power goes out into the greater area, but can we use this to keep up Parkwood High School in that very local area close to this site? That would take some additional technology, some additional breakers, that type of thing. I don't know that we're going to be pursuing that anytime in the next 5 to 10 years, but that would be a side benefit of this. In order to have a good functional microgrid like that, this battery would be invaluable.
So basically what that would do, like if you done that, Parkwood High School would basically get their power from this all the time. That way, if it did shut off, the power wouldn't feed back through the other lines.
Yes,
Something
sir.
like that.
I could get into all sorts of technical details, but that's a good way of summarizing it. I like to kind of think of it as like an uninterruptible power supply for your computer. You know, you run the computer on the battery the whole time, and then when the power goes out, it keeps it up. That would be, if we pursued a microgrid, kind of how that would be for the Parkwood High School area right there. But I don't want to paint the picture that that's a project that we're definitely doing, but it is on the radar, and they're building in capability to do that with this battery. And with that new modern Parkwood substation that we have that's just out of the frame of that picture there, it has all of the modern digital control systems to be able to accommodate that type of thing, whereas that old substation didn't. So it is something technically feasible, and it is something that might be 5 to 10 or more years out, but would be possible.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, so basically this system hopefully is going to maybe minimize those, certain times whenever y'all tick everybody off when y'all win Duke. During the extreme weather conditions, y'all want us to, cut our thermostat down.
I think we're still going to call on conservation if we're asked to by our regional transmission provider. We are going to still ask for conservation. And I can't sit here and tell you that things won't get so bad that we won't have to shed load again, right? But I can tell you that Christmas Eve 3 years ago, if we had 10 more megawatts on my system, that was more than I shed that day.
Wow.
So it would be very helpful.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this special use permit? All right, at that time, we'll close that part of it and listen to the ones that are in opposition. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? All right, apparently not. All right. At this time, we will close the open session and go into our discussion part. All right, we now have concluded the portion of the case that pertains to the presentation of evidence. The board shall now proceed to the discussion and decision portion of the cases. Interested parties are not permitted to address the board during the portion of the meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and vote. All right, we have the 5 findings of facts that we have to go through. Before we start, does anyone make a comment before we start on the findings of facts? All right, if you'll go back in your packet, it's about 2 or 3 pages across, and it does say the findings of facts. the Board adjustment may not approve an application for a special use permit unless it first reaches each of the following conclusions based on findings of fact supported by competent, substantial, and material evidence presented at this public hearing. And what it's saying is there'll be 5 portions of this that we'll have to discuss, and we have to vote on them. We all have to vote to be in favor of it, to approve it. If one of the findings of facts, we cannot vote on it and all be in conjunction with it, then it does stop the procedure at that point. Okay, the first is the proposed use and development comply with all regulations and standards generally applicable within the zoning district and specifically applicable to the particular type of a special use. This is a major utility. It will conform to all the regulations in the RA40 zoning. Electric substations are exempt from height requirements. However, the height of the site will remain less than 15 feet above grade, including equipment and foundations. Ravenvolt will utilize existing trees on property for screening, as well as S2 screening dedicated by the Union County ordinances to limit visibility from the road and adjacent properties. What are your comments? Does that, with the discussion we've had, has all of that been met?
Like it's met.
All right. Do I hear a motion that we accept that one?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Right hand. Thank you. All right, we'll go to number 2. The proposed development will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Ravenvolt, NCEMC are committed to providing safe and reliable power. Unmanned substation, no public utilities will be required to operate and maintain facility. Will provide security fence at a height of 7 feet. Minimal traffic will be generated because it's an unmanned station. The site will be designed to meet the requirements of NFPA 855. This includes the development of a hazard mitigation analysis and emergency response plan created by a third-party fire protection engineer, and that has been done. Ravenvolt will provide site-specific training to local emergency first responders as well as Union Power. That has been discussed, and I think it was satisfied.
Well, satisfied.
Does anyone have any comment? Do I hear a motion to accept it?
So moved.
Second? All right, all in favor? All right, now we'll go to number 3. The proposed development will not substantially injure the value of abutting property or is in a public necessity. An impact study provided by Hunter Howell stated that the proposed use will not substantially injure the value of abutting property. Okay, so that has been addressed, and there is no property damage. I think they did a really good job with it.
Yep.
Are anyone with any comment? Do I hear a motion to accept it?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All right, number 4. The proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. This is a tract of land previously utilized for a utility substation. The new site design is smaller than previous use and utilizes the current Union County screening requirements. The proposed substation is sited to have a minimal impact on surrounding properties and is in close proximity to existing Union Power and electric lines. I think the harmony has been addressed, and I think is everyone satisfied with the results?
I think it's gonna look better than what was there.
Yeah, I think so. Do I hear a motion to be accepted?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, the proposed development will be a general conformity with a comprehensive plan. The proposed use is an allowed use with the granting of a special use permit, therefore it is in conformity with the comprehensive plan. I think that has been addressed and has been satisfied. Any discussion? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Special use permit will be granted.
Well, we gotta make a motion.
We got a motion, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Sorry?
Staff recommendations in your.
Yes, staff recommendation will be included in it.
Yes.
Is there, here it is, where is it? We usually have a, that we read, so is,
Well, this new guy's changing stuff
Yeah.
up. We're gonna have to talk to him.
okay. All right, so would you state your motion again now?
I make a motion, we approve with staff recommendations. Is that sufficient?
Is that acceptable?
It would be cleaner if you read them. If John will help you out with that.
I'm just looking to see if we have one in here to read, but I don't see it.
They're on the, this page, down at the bottom, it's the,
It's toward the back,
at the beginning, second page. Take a look.
second page. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, staff recommendation. Must comply with all, okay, go ahead. It's your motion, go ahead. On the screen.
All right.
We get there.
All right, must comply with all local, state, and federal regulations, must comply with the Union County Development Ordinance, and must fully comply with the site-specific plan.
Is that accept? All right. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Thank you, guys. That was a great presentation. I think again, we wasn't trying to be picky in our questions. We just try to protect the people that's associated and involved with it. We do appreciate your time.
Well, it was a good learning opportunity too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break for just a few minutes, and then we'll be back to go on with the next agenda item. That gives Miss Kelly time to leave. Now, you're welcome to stay if you want to. But she's got children at home that probably needs to feed supper. All right, we can take a break. Say a 5-minute break, 15 to 8. All right. We're still live. Anyone that's staying for the rezoning, you're welcome to stay. We'll be back and we'll reactivate it. And there'll also be public comments from the staff on the minor subdivisions.
Mowing my yard and taking a toll on my body, and so I would really get out and get some sunshine.
We appreciate your help.
You're serious when I'm here, right?
Yeah, big time. We do appreciate your directions.
I think I had about 1 more minute left. Yeah.
No, he don't. He gets here about 30 seconds till. No. Derek gets lost sometimes. It takes him You know, you have to keep retraining. That's a lot of times, that's the reason a lot of folks don't go to lunch, because you have to retrain them after lunch to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Darren's not here, so I'm having to give you a hard time.
Just track mud in.
Tracking mud in.
Thank you for your time. Yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation.
yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
You think you'll be able to talk about this tonight?
I need to get me a set of them bionic legs, like old bionic man got. Call OSI down there at Fort Bragg, see if they can get me a set. Is that what they was, OSI, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually went on a
Yes, sir.
flight with one of OSI agents. We were on a training mission.
Yeah.
KC 135. She was.
Glad to have you both.
Yeah. That's what crashed, was it?
I don't think it was Seymour Johnson. That's where we went over to Bristol Motor Speedway.
Oh, man.
Mock Fuel, another plane, big plane.
Yeah.
It was out of there.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Cool.
Looks like it could be late at night.
Okay. We'll now go into the rezoning petition of RZ 2026-004 for Coston.
David sitting there. He got.
Oh, okay. Hold on just a minute. We're waiting on one member to come back. I thought he was back. I apologize. There he is. Oh, that's okay.
But you do know everybody's looking at you now since you was the last one in.
Now, go ahead, sir. Is the
Thank
petition complete?
Yes,
Everything
it
good?
is.
All right.
So this is a rezoning petition 2026-RZ-004. It's the McAllister rezoning. This case is to rezone one parcel totaling 10.848 parcels, or acres, appearing on the tax map as tax parcel 04036007, located on Pageland Highway, from highway corridor with conditions to light industrial. This rezoning request is a straight rezoning, so there are no conditions associated with this request as there were on the previous rezoning for this property. The owner is Winding Creek LLC. The applicant is Tommy McAllister Jr. And again, it's on the west side of Pageland Highway, south of Claude Austin Road, location more specifically described as tax parcel 04036007. So the property was rezoned in 2016 with the following restrictions: off-premise signs, campground, RV park, flea market, or type 3 mini storage, which is a mini storage that involves any outdoor storage. So that means that when this property was rezoned, they could pretty much do anything that was in the underlying rezoning or zone, except for these items. So let's see. This is the existing conditions. So sorry, these pictures are a little bit dark on here, but that's top left is the site. This picture in the top right is north of the site. Bottom left is south of the site, and then this picture on the bottom right is opposite of the site. Here is the site plan for the property. I guess the current site plan for the property. Here's the development status. So this is the parcel that we're talking about right here. It has existing buildings. And not much else in regards except for other industrial properties.
John, got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Going with this, what will be allowed with this rezoning if it's approved?
So this is will be to light industrial, so anything that would be allowed in the light industrial zone, so, or zoning district. So,
Examples of light industrial?
I'm sorry, what?
An example of a light industrial?
A small, small factory of certain size. I'd have to look in the ordinance to get the exact language, but.
I do think that.
I can help a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
So the highway corridor is almost, which is currently zoned, is kind of a bridge between your B4 general zoning district and your light industrial. So it excludes some uses that were in B4 and some of the more intensive uses that are in light industrial. So that was kind of what the highway corridor is. The light industrial would allow some more, I guess, intensive uses, but light industrial is not, it's not very intensive to begin with. It's generally geared more toward clean industry, I would say. What it's going to do is it would likely exclude some of the retail components that would be allowed under highway corridor, but allow some more of the light industrial uses, such as maybe like warehousing, some distribution type uses, but no heavy industry. So if you want to think of like mining, like over at the brick plant on 74, so that stuff like that would not be allowed, like really heavy stuff, but more light industry, like again, warehousing, distribution centers, kind of, I know it's in South Carolina, but just down the road, over the line, stuff like that would generally be allowed.
Would it be like right now, I think they work on, or it was, they worked on lawnmowers and tractors and all. So with this, they could like maybe do light fabrication or something, something similar to that.
So there is the table of allowed uses in the very back of your book, and light industrial is the next to last column. And a good example is under wholesale distribution and storage. So under that, warehouse and wholesale sales and distribution are allowed as permitted uses, but equipment, materials, outdoor storage, trucking, and transportation terminals are special uses. Opposite of that, for heavy industrial, those would be permitted uses. So there's some, higher intensity uses that would have to come before you that don't have to for the highway industrial. And likewise, those aren't allowed at all in the highway commercial.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, just up the road from there is Monroe Farm Center. That is also under light industrial now, isn't it?
Let's see. So this, here's what the current zoning is. So this is the highway commercial CZ conditional zoning. It's right next to another parcel that is zoned light industrial. And then next to that is a light industrial with a conditional zoning. And I think that one is grain.
Yeah, Monroe Farm Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one does
Seed
have,
grain.
that one is approved just for that specific use.
Okay.
Whereas the one under it, between the one we're talking about, is open to anything in the light industrial.
Okay.
So there's already an example of a parcel right next door who has a light industrial zoning.
Okay.
Let's see. Environmental features, there are no floodplains or streams going through the property. Does anybody have any questions about this, any more questions about the zoning before we move on? It is surrounded by RA 40 on the other sides. Transportation, Pageland Highway has about 14,000 average daily trips. On the land use map, this is indicated as an employment corridor in the comp plan. So this falls within an area that is corresponding with employment centers. This request is commercial in nature, so we didn't consult with schools. Public water and sewer are not available to the site, so that will may cause some issues with any kind of growth or towards industrial that they would go to. So there's a limiting factor there with regards to that. Community meeting was not required. Monroe was not consulted for comments because it's 3 miles south. Staff report and recommendations. So negatives of the proposal: the future allowed uses on the property under certain uses allowed in light industrial districts could result in increased congestion on the roads and streets adjacent and nearby to the property. Traffic congestion is a noted concern in the plan. Certain uses allowed in a light industrial zoning district are not employment uses that are contemplated uses in an employment corridor as identified in the plan. And the proposed rezoning will facilitate ongoing and potential future industrial uses in close proximity to existing residential uses, including residential uses in areas identified as rural residential. The positives of the proposal: the proposed use is consistent with the plan. The plan's land use map identifies this area with an employment corridor overlay. The plan provides that a variety of employment uses may be appropriate along an employment corridor. Parcel of land is a larger parcel. It's over 10 acres and is reasonable in size for the proposed zoning district. An immediately adjacent property is already zoned as light industrial, with the subject property also having direct access to US 601. The property is also located with approximately a 3/4 mile radius of an existing commercial use. The benefits to the community at large, the neighbors, and the property owners of the proposed rezoning outweigh any detriments to the neighbors and other causes by the rezoning. The benefits of the rezoning include potentially allowing for increased employment or business uses for the surrounding community to utilize, as well as developing an area designated in the plan for development along a significant transportation corridor in the county. Staff recommendation is approval based on these factors.
Does anyone have any questions?
What's going to be done here?
Nothing is being proposed at this time. It's going to be rezoned for light industrial.
Just so they can get it sold?
I don't have any idea, Charles. We don't have any information on what's going there. They're just going by what the rules and regulations are for the light industrial zoning.
Since
So-
this is, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
Since it's a straight rezoning, we don't get that information from the applicant. You're generally used to seeing conditional rezonings, which there's a lot of information like site plan and stuff like that, but this is just a straight rezoning. They're wanting to rezone to light industrial, so any use in the light industrial district, if it was approved, could be done.
Yeah, and so when you're making a decision on this type of rezoning, you want to assume that anything could go there. So, because once it's rezoned industrial or light industrial, you know, this current business may go out of business in the future, so you have to plan and think, well, what else can go there?
He's going out of business because it's for sale.
Right, that's why when you think about what could go here in a light industrial district, you got to think about all the different uses that are possible.
Let me restate that. That's a wrong statement. He not going out of business, but he's going somewhere else.
Okay.
Because the property's for sale, unless the signs come down in the last 2 or 3 days. It's on one of those pictures, but I probably pretty regular, and he's got it for sale. He closed down everything that was there and moved his.
So the applicant will probably speak and could answer some of those questions.
Now, I really don't think it has any bearing on what we're talking about.
No, and that's true. Whenever you're considering a rezoning, you don't think about what's currently could possibly go there right now. You think about all the different things and all the possibilities
Well,
when you're
now,
considering a
it was-
rezoning like this.
It was zoned that before it was rezoned the other time, correct?
Gosh, I don't know the answer to that.
I believe that's right.
I think it was.
Yeah, they rezoned it for some reason, and then they just want to take it back to what it was before.
I think that's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do the applicants have anything they'd like to say? Now, y'all did sign up to... That's right. I apologize. We usually get a list for for them to speak on.
I probably don't have much to say.
That's fine.
You're right, it was light industrial or heavy industrial, I don't remember.
Would you state your name, please?
Tommy McAllister.
Okay.
I'm the owner
Okay.
of Winding Creek. It was heavy, I think, Al, is that right? Yes. It was heavy industrial for years and years. And I changed it to highway corridor for doing retail, for some of the things I was retailing.
Right.
Well, I've stopped the business and I just have a little bit of administration down there right now. And maybe moving that probably more in a different location. But I think light industrial, after talking to the planning guys, we talked about it and everything around is light industrial. So I said, and I get people looking at the property to buy it and they say, well, is it light industrial? What is it? I said, no, it's kind of different, And everybody's like, well, why are we different? Let's just be light industrial. So I don't know much about it, but Al Rory is helpful to me, and that's what we did. Those guys were very helpful in saying, it's probably the right thing to do, Chip. It should be light industrial. We don't want a heavy industrial, we love light industrial.
Okay,
Okay.
good deal.
Any questions or anything?
Anyone have any questions?
So, Mr. McCosker, you're doing it to help get the property sold. You think it'll sell better if it goes back to what it was?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else want to speak? Good deal. What are y'all's thoughts? Look, do I hear a motion? Recommend a motion? For or against?
I'd like to motion.
We gotta
that
read it.
we approve it.
Okay, we need to read that one now. That's it right there, where your little tab is? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the red right there? Where's it? Right there, yeah.
I recommend approval of rezoning petition RZ 2026-004 and adopt the advisory, consistent, and responsibility statement for the recommendation of approval.
All right, we have a motion? Second?
That's the motion.
All in favor? All right. Now, this will go before the county commissioners, and they will make the final decision on it. This is just a recommendation to the county commissioners. Okay, you guys are welcome to leave, or you're welcome to stay for the rest of whatever you want to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's what I was looking for.
You didn't have one though, because they were the applicants. So
Yeah. Sometimes I mess up, Amy. All right, going on, let's see what, get back over to the agenda. Now we're going into the minor subdivision discussion. Mr. Jensen.
Yes, sir. So last meeting, we kind of introduced the topic. The Board of County Commissioners asked us to evaluate the minor subdivision standards. So we thought it would be best to bring that to the Land Use Board to have discussions about it. And at the last meeting, we kind of introduced the topic. So that's why I kind of titled this one Continued. So we talked about bringing 3 items back to this meeting and probably some subsequent things to probably in April. But the March meeting, we talked about bringing the definition of a lot. What does it mean to be a lot? The major versus minor lot threshold and how that, and what a parent parcel is and what that means. And then a little bit of a discussion about a family subdivision exception. So I've got a few slides here. I'll just kind of go through. On the UDO definition of a lot, I just got one slide on that. It's essentially from the ordinance, Article 105, 130. That's the definition of a lot. So I'll read it. Parcel of land whose boundaries have been established by some legal instrument, such as a recorded deed or a recorded map, and that is recognized as a separate legal entity for purposes of transfer of title. If a public body or any authority with the power of eminent domain condemns, purchases, or otherwise obtains fee simple title to or a lesser interest in a strip of land cutting across a parcel of land otherwise characterized as a lot by this definition, or a private street is created across a parcel of land otherwise characterized as a lot by this definition, and the interest thus obtained or the street so created is such as to effectively prevent the use of this parcel as one lot, then the land on either side of this strip constitutes a separate lot. A lot of words to say that if you've got a lot and a road or some other strip of land goes through that property and effectively really makes it two lots. So that's kind of the definition of a lot. I think the concern that this was one that was specifically, I think, has been mentioned at a couple of the board meetings. I think the concern is that making it two lots. And I think the way that plays into a minor subdivision, that's probably what I should get to. So if you've got a piece of property, if you've got a parent parcel that is split by a public road, and there's multiple examples of that through the county, then, that definition of a minor subdivision is up to 8 lots. You can do 8 lots as a minor subdivision. So if you apply this definition to one of those parent parcels that's split by a road, then you effectively, out of that parent parcel, you get 16, because it's 2 separate lots, which creates it 2 separate parent parcels.
But now, and I've realized that some people's got their stomach in a knot over that. But I mean, the bottom line is, it would be 16 homes or 16 lots, and they would have to be 1 acre lots. And I mean, just.
Or it would depend on the zoning district. So,
but yeah.
But essentially, yes.
I mean, more or less in the rural areas,
Yeah.
it's gonna be acre lots. So I mean, really and truly, the most you're gonna have on it's the 16 houses, which man and wife, that's 32 vehicles. And then we look at some of the others in the municipalities that's got hundreds of homes coming out of one driveway. Is it really that big of an impact?
Again, I would, that's why I brought it to the board for you guys to have that discussion. And ultimately, with all this information, what we'll do is we'll compile it, take it back to the Board of County Commissioners, and they'll give us some further direction on, we want to move forward with this, we don't want to move forward with this. So I'd like you guys to discuss this one and maybe come to some consensus on, is there something that do we need to tweak the definition? Is it fine as is? What do we do with it?
So before the road, it's 8.
Correct.
So the road, could it be put in by the landowner and turned over to the county?
No, because if you build a road as part of a development, which that would be considered a development, that would be considered a major subdivision automatically.
Okay.
So no, you're not going to get, because at that point you're doing away with, this essentially applies to roads that exist today.
Well, just like, for example, if you had a lot that Langsford Road had come through the middle of at some point in time. You own land on both sides, and that was your big parcel. The way it is right now, if it fit all the whatever, it would be 8 houses on each side of the road that you'd be eligible to do, right?
Right.
That's for a minor subdivision.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. If we're doing a major subdivision, then a lot of this really doesn't matter anyway, because we're getting into designing new roads and water and sewer systems and that kind of thing.
Now, does this go back to the parent property again?
It does, yeah.
Okay, how's this gonna affect that?
So it effectively, that parent parcel becomes really kind of like 2 parent parcels, if you will. And I will point out, Doug, to your question about can the landowner or developer create that parcel. So the very first part of that sentence that is kind of highlighted here, so it's if a public body or any authority with the power of eminent domain. So you could have a scenario where, if NCDOT is building a new road, then that could today create the situation where you now have 2 lots. So it's not, because I think I did say, generally it is, stuff that existed a long time ago, but that's not to say you couldn't have a situation. Yeah. So like the Monroe Expressway, I don't know, most of that's not in our jurisdiction. There are a few little islands here and there that are, but something like that could create. Correct. Yeah.
But is that a big problem in Union County, or is that a big occurrence?
It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen.
Well, and yeah, but it's just not that often.
Right.
And then I know there's talk of wanting to lower that 8-house threshold on the minor subdivision.
We'll get into that.
My only concern about that is if we're not careful, we're going to create a scenario that ends up making more major subdivisions, because everybody's not going to be a farmer, and nothing we can do is going to stop people or really stop Charlotte and Mecklenburg County moving this way. I mean, we're a whole lot better off if we figure out a way to kind of control it, because if we try to stop it, I know that the higher powers in the state will make decisions that we will not like.
Well,
And we will definitely not like them.
I would add to that, that's exactly why we need to elect representatives to the legislature that are farmers, not developers. And let me share this. I heard from a farmer just this past weekend. He formerly worked 400 acres where the expressway went through, and now he only has 100 to work out of that. Now, something else I wanted to ask in relation to the discussion here, and educate me here, because we're relating this to definitions of minor and major subdivisions. Why was major minor subdivisions even established to begin with? Why is that distinction necessary?
Sure. Generally, a major subdivision is going to have some more criteria associated with it. But there is that line, and in Union County, it's 8 lots. And when I say Union County, I mean unincorporated Union County. Some of the towns have their own separate standards, but that number was set at 8. So anything over 8 lots is a major subdivision. Those are generally going to have some more requirements to them. And a lot of times when you get a subdivision, let's say it's 10 lots and it's a major subdivision and you're not building any new roads, the extra requirements really don't exist. They're not really, there are no extra requirements. Once you get into some of these real big subdivisions, you guys have seen them, we've got a few out there that are, 500-600 lots. that you do get into some pretty big requirements there, mainly with traffic impact analysis and trying to do things to help offset the traffic that's generated by that development. Stormwater is another one. You know, you get some of the denser subdivisions that are being built. There are stormwater standards to help protect the neighbors from increased runoff. But that's the answer to the question.
Well, what I'm still failing to understand is why whatever the situation is, can it be addressed simply by size of lots instead of, rather than making major minor? Why can't it simply be addressed by whatever other regulations?
So you do have size requirements now. That's dictated by whatever the zoning is in that area. Primarily in the county, as Mark's pointed out, it's RA40 or R40, so that's a 40,000 square foot lot size, which is slightly smaller than an acre. It's just easier to say R40 than it is to say R43,560. That's just a little bit easier to do. But I think an acre is like 40,000 square feet is about 0.92 of an acre. That's your lot size requirement. So if you're, whatever kind of subdivision you're doing, if you're dividing property, whether it's one lot or 1,000 lots, if you're an RA40, your lot size is going to be generally 40,000 square feet. Now, you can get into some nuances with some different types of subdivisions like cluster developments and stuff like that. But your overall density still goes back to that 1 unit per 40,000 square feet. Yes, sir?
Now, the minor subdivision on the 8 lots for a minor subdivision, that does not require any 30% leave out. That's only in the major subdivisions, that's correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's kind of what I meant by some of the extra rules that kind of come into play on some of those major subdivisions, is that once you get over that certain threshold, you do have some extra requirements to kick in. And in the rural areas, which is generally what you deal with, there is a 30% open space requirement for major subdivisions to be set aside. And that was part of the 2050 comp plan. It was really to get at recognizing that development, to Mark's point, that development is going to happen. And how can development still happen and some semblance of rural character still be maintained in the rural parts of the county?
So you're saying essentially major minor came in as a distinction to control growth, right?
I mean, regulation of subdivisions is kind of what that is, and that's been around for longer than I've been alive. So it's, yeah, I mean, that's essentially what subdivision regulations are. It's to help control, but also help to offset some of the impacts that development creates.
Well, let me just add this. Seems to me we'd be a lot better off and spend less time and stuff if, rather than having the major minor subdivision, that we simply make what I think is a necessary distinction between rules applying to individuals or families that own property versus developers or businesses that aren't a part of that community. To me, that is a more needed distinction in terms of the rules than major minor subdivisions.
That would be something that, you know, that would require a wholesale change to not just Union County's rules, but the state statutes regarding development in general. So my recommendation there would be, if that's something that you wanted to pursue, or any of the board members wanted to pursue, you would need to work through the legislature to do that.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm advocating now, we need to elect farmers to the legislature.
On the 8 lots for a minor subdivision, if that was, if you got 8, say you got 8 lots there, that could come back to be rezoned to R30, or 30,000 feet. So that would take it from a minor to a major then, would it not?
Well, no, because you're talking about two different things. You're talking about zoning and you're talking about the number of lots that create a major subdivision.
Right, so if you wanted to put more than 8 lots there, you'd have to have it rezoned to be able to put 10 or 12 houses on it.
No, no, I mean, if I've got 10 acres and I want to do 10 40,000 square foot lots, that's a major subdivision. I guess.
That's what I'm speaking, that goes from
Okay.
minor to a major. But as long as you stay like with the 8 lots, that's the maximum you can put and have a minor subdivision.
Yeah, but
Okay.
you wouldn't necessarily have to rezone. All the rezoning is doing is changing your allowed density.
Well, you'd have to change it to put, if you, never mind. I understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, okay.
But I thought minor was to kind of help the small guy.
It is. But because a minor subdivision doesn't have as many, kind of those rules associated with it, and it's an expedited review process. And I kind of gone through some of this at our last meeting. Generally a minor subdivision, we can review those in what, John, 10 days? I mean, and that's a total. That's not, like, our review's about a day. It takes us about a day or two to get through one of those reviews, but we got environmental health, we got.
Really and truly, the minor subdivision also helps the cost of the building where it makes them a little more affordable.
Right.
Because you're not having to do all the extra stuff for the major.
Requirement.
Of course, and it all depends on what kind of house you build on it too, but.
You're gonna assume that the builder's not just gonna charge what the builder charges. He's gonna pass some savings off to the person he's selling to, which is not ever a guarantee.
Right, but normally speaking, when they build a development, they design it, whether it's a starter home or the next step home or the forever home, they're normally set up when they build them where they all kind of match each other in there, so.
Well, one thing I would like to recommend is that at one time it had mentioned of making the minor subdivision down to 5 lots. So I would recommend that we stay at the 8 lots.
So we're going to get into that. I think that's the next topic I want to talk about.
Okay.
So right now, I mean, I've heard some comments so far that maybe at least 2 of you might be okay with the way this definition reads today, and maybe we don't want to change it. But is there, I guess what I'm looking for is a consensus of the board, so the land use board, so we can go back and say, hey, look, land use board didn't recommend this change.
Well, I think that if the lot is one lot, and then state builds a road, or the municipality builds a road through somebody's land, is there a way to continue that being just one lot as opposed to splitting it into 2 and allowing 2 minor subdivisions on what would essentially have only been allowed 1?
That would essentially be deleting the section that's highlighted here.
Well, look at it this way. Let's just say mom and dad had a brother and a sister. Or, you had a brother and a sister in that family. And they was 100 acres of land. And a road come right down through the middle of it. So the brother got 50 acres and the sister got 50 acres. Wouldn't one have just as much right as the other as far as doing something? Because really and truly, in my opinion, even though that was originally when mom and dad owned it, a 100-acre plot of land, when it was designated out to the 2 individuals with inheritance, now, in reality, you've got 2 lots there, regardless. And you got to kind of take that into consideration when you're making the decisions. I know the idea is to cut down on housing and all that, but you got to be careful. Well, look at it this way.
In that scenario, that would be
But
justified.
look
Now
at it this way, though.
Those 2 lots of land are now owned by 2 different people.
any,
As opposed to one family still
yeah,
owning all
but,
of that same land.
right,
If
but,
the land went to two separate people, then each person has their own right to do whatever they want with their
right.
section of land.
But look at it this way, every decision we make as a board, the one thing we can't do is devalue property of people, right? You can't devalue other people's property.
Right.
Well, that could also be twisted around as to say, can you stop people from making the most they can out of what they have? Do you really want government to control you to that point? Okay.
Simple terms. Explain the difference in this and what we already have. Just simple terms.
This is what we already have.
So this basically is
is
staying
the-
just like it is.
This is the definition that we have today, and I'm just wanting feedback on, should it change? Should it stay the same? Should we modify it somehow? Because the issue, and I think Rick's kind of getting there is, and I think this is where some of the board members have come from is, you're essentially out of a parent parcel in some instances allowing 16 lots instead of 8. So, and is, that's what we're talking about. Is that okay? And I think, Mark's point is, they think that's fine.
I'm good with it.
And that's kind of the discussion, and,
Well, okay, let's just say one person owned that, okay? One person owned it all. Then I have no problem with the 8 acre rule, or 8 house rule, 8 lot rule on it.
If one person owned the property.
If one
even
person
if the
owned
road
it all.
goes through,
But all I'm saying is, if it was broke up from inheritance,
I think that should restart the parent.
exactly.
Once it separates to two different children, that should restart the parent line.
Yep,
Basically.
I agree.
And I get if that same person owns both lots, that same person can't then say, okay, now I wanna put 2 minors on here and skirt around the major subdivision. But if that parent dies, and it goes to 2 separate people, 2 separate children, then those 2 separate children are separate at that point. The land is separate, the road separates the property. At that point, there's really no stopping each person who owns the property to split their own property into 8 lots.
Right.
If they choose to. They may or may not, we don't know.
Right.
And I think that would close the loophole of saying one owner can separate into 16, because then the property is no longer owned by one owner, now it's owned by 2 owners or more.
So I think what you might be getting into there is that, going again back to that definition of that lot of record. We've had that discussion a couple times
Yeah, but
before.
But now think about it this way, with what he's just talking about. By doing it that way, then you're allowing the person who inherited it to also take on that same family tradition of allowing their children to build on it and have ownership. Because everybody's not gonna build a bunch of houses.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, that's true, not everybody's gonna wanna do that. Some people are gonna wanna keep their property whole and not separate it out. It's gonna buy some time in between each division as well. Because the parent's gonna own the property until a point where they either can't manage it or they are no longer around to manage it. They're gonna pass it off to their kids. Their kids are gonna own it until at a point in time, they can no longer own it or they can no longer manage it. So it buys some time in between the separations. They can always sell off 8 at that particular moment in time, but then they're locked at that point. They can't sell anymore.
Right, right.
Without going
through a major, right.
So at any rate, it will start buying time for the separations
So
as
that-
we move through.
That 100-acre scenario, Charlie owns it. Road goes through the center. Charlie can't automatically do 16 houses.
Based on the current definition, yes.
That's what we're trying to
Right.
Yeah.
cut out.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
If it splits and goes to Jenny and Bob.
That's different than a public body who has the authority of eminent domain. That's an estate or you know, somebody giving some property to a kid or something like that. That's a little bit different,
I
yeah.
would even go so far to say that that person owns 100 acres and he has 17 grandchildren, and he wants to separate his acreage out to 17 kids.
Absolutely.
That's on him. It's
Yep.
it's on his family, and as long as they can say this is my family.
Exactly, and that's why, again, we need to treat developers different in this situation than families.
And I think in the next two topics, when we talk about the minor subdivision and that lot of record, and then that family subdivision exemption, I think that's going to get to some of those points. Like I said, this one is just simply for this one particular definition, and Doug's right. I mean, this is that, you know, Charlie owns 100 acres, NCDOT comes through and they build a road through the middle of that property because they have the power of eminent domain, and let's just say they do it clean and he's got, you know, road's gonna take up some acreage, so he's got 40 acres on one side and 40 acres on the other side, so he's got, now instead of 8 lots as a minor, he can do 16. So that's simply, we're not talking about ownership or who owns it, that's as simple as I can make it on this particular topic.
But does that affect back to the parent property again?
Yes, yes.
I think that's something we need to be careful of too, is the parent property situation, to where I don't fully understand the parent property and how many times it can be divided, and then it can't be divided anymore.
So currently, as of today, under the current rules, that parent parcel, remember, I don't know if you remember that discussion back, I believe it was in 1978, yeah. So February 14th, 1978, that is that parent parcel date. So that is, if you got a parent parcel, whatever parcels existed on that date, that's your parent tract. So you can do 8 lots out of that parent parcel as a minor subdivision. But also recognize there are a number of exemptions. If you've got a 50-acre tract and you want to cut it into 10 acre, if you got 100 acres and you want to cut it into 10-acre lots, that is exempt. That does not count towards you. That's a state rule. You can cut as many 10-acre lots out as you want to, and that doesn't count against that 8-lot development.
Okay, then the 10-acre lots that was cut out.
Still only get 8 out of the parent tract.
Okay, and I guess we've had conversation about changing that a little bit every so many years, add a house or two to it.
And I got that in the next topic.
And I've truly been having that in my mind that when we was doing that. And
Yep.
Quick, go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about with the parent tract, literally, all this definition is talking about here is if you've got that parent tract, that tract that was created on February 14th, 1978, and a road goes through the middle of it, that DOT is either an existing road or DOT is building a new road, it essentially creates 2 parent parcels. So you get 8 out of both sides of the road. That's all this definition. This is not talking about ownership or a reset date. We're gonna get into that in just a second. I'm just talking about this one definition. Are y'all okay with the way that this definition works? And if it splits that property versus 8 versus 16, or I will tell you there is a scenario. There is one that I know of that is down in the southwestern portion of the county. It is a gigantic piece of property. I'm talking on the order of probably around 2,000 acres. It's got 3, it maybe has 4 roads that go through it. It was a belt property from a long time ago, and so again, it's 2,000 acres, but so you might be able to get not just 16, but you might be able to get 32 lots out of it.
Then you get 32 houses on that
Yeah.
section of land as opposed
Not,
to 16.
and I want you to understand that it's not widespread. It's not like this is happening on every square inch of Union County. But, you know, it was identified as an issue by some of the board members. They wanted us to discuss it. So that's why I'm bringing it to you.
Well, I think what Rick and I was talking about was mainly if a child inherited, there would have to be an exception there, like you couldn't have it to where, well, this builder bought this side and another builder bought that side. That shouldn't fall in the same category.
I think if we were to shut this loophole, we can talk about that with the parent parcel next. If we were to take the language out that says your one lot is now two, and now you can build two separate minor subdivisions and not have to go through the same loopholes as a major subdivision, take that out, then we can cover the restart date of a parent parcel. Say a parent dies, or they pass off to their kids, that will restart the parent parcel for that specific spot of property. Now, 16 years down the line, 18 years down the line, they split that property into each one of their kids. Now, their kids can sell and do the same thing, but that's on that individual. And that's something we can
Well, to
discuss.
do it that way, would the language need to change on this?
I think the language would need to change to say that as long as it stays within the same ownership, that it should maintain its 8-lot standard.
Is that possible?
We can address that in the parent parcel discussion next, yeah.
That's a good idea.
So,
Go.
seeing a few head shakes. Again, I don't want you guys to vote on it. I'm just looking at, okay, so it looks like we got some consensus to maybe modify this definition to not allow multiple sort of parent parcels out of solely from this definition. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Okay, all right. So got that consensus. I'll make sure, you know, we report that to the board as we move forward. And I do want y'all to understand, this isn't the last time you're going to see it. So what we're doing now is we're just kind of running through these things, getting some consensus on a couple items. We're going to take those items to the board and in a group and just say, look, this is, you know, land use board has looked at this issue that you asked them to look at. These are some suggestions that they came up with. Which ones of these do you want to move forward with? Are there ones you don't? Are there things that we discussed that the board said shouldn't change that maybe you do want to change? And ultimately what will happen is those will come back to you as text amendments to the ordinance as part of like an official process. And that's, I'm saying that mainly because I know there's at least one person here that's probably got an interest in this. So that's, and I also made a promise that, and I think you did too, that you wanted to hear feedback from the community, and that's when that process will happen.
Yeah, I think we can look at this to go on through the rest of this year and possibly into next year, because we do need to figure out how to take Union County builders into consideration, especially the small builders. And I mean, because let's face it, the way Union County is, the way our 2050 plan was laid out and all that, the large home builders are gonna stay around the municipalities to where they can do what they do, because it just don't fit our 2050 plan in the rural areas.
Would you have any objections just to list of Ryan to see if he's got any comments on it?
No, sure.
Ryan, do you have any comments you'd like to make on it?
Well, good evening, thank you, guys. Well, are you wanting my opinion on this?
This, yeah.
Honestly, I've never heard of this right here. This is news to me, but I think this would be in my opinion, this is going to be a very rare situation. And the only thing that's going to make this not a rare situation is when you have big tracts of land that Lee just talked about, which if you've got 2,000 acres, you know, you ought to be able to do more with that 2,000 acres than I should be able to do with 8 acres.
Mhm.
You know, I shouldn't, you know, a 2,000 acre piece of property shouldn't be limited to 8 lots when I can go over here and put 8 lots on 8 acres. You know, that's, to me, that's not right. So I think the intent of this right here is just that normally when that happens, you've got a large tract of land there, and you're breaking it up into 2 smaller, large tracts of land. So you're still meeting the intent of the 8 lot minor versus major. Because like I said, this is only going to happen in very rare instances where you've got large tracts of land. And to me, you know, if you've got 1,000 acres of land there that's cut up into 2 500 acres, to say that you can't do more than 8 lots on that, I don't think that's right.
Well, there wouldn't be, because the 10 acres is what comes into that. When you've got less than 10 acres, is that right? Then you can put the 8 lots, or is he right in what he's saying, can only put 8 lots in 500 acres?
If those lots are less than 10 acres,
Right.
then you
But
would
if-
be limited to 8, right, Lee?
Right, right. So the 10-acre rule you're talking about is a state exemption. So if you've got 100 acres, you can divide that into 10 10-acre lots.
As many as you want to.
Well, 10
As long as it's 10
that's-
acres.
I mean, out of 100 acres, that's all you're gonna
Yeah,
get.
yeah.
But 10 10-acre lots, and that's not subject to any ordinance provision or anything. They just bring a map into us, and we look at it and say, yeah, it's, you know, 10 10-acre lots, and we sign.
Yeah.
Or if you've got a 20-acre lot, and you wanna make it 2 10-acre lots, that's all exempt.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure.
But again, out of that 20 acres, you still only get 8 lots that are under 10.
Under 10 acres.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So if you do 8 1-acre lots out of that 20-acre lot, then anything beyond that would be a major subdivision.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on.
So I think we had a consensus a minute ago to look at changing it. I mean, are you still thinking that way, or?
I think,
I'm
I
sitting
think we need to
forward.
get more opinions before we take that step.
Okay. Do that.
You need to bring some support with you. Tell your partners that numbers mean things.
I gotta get over that. They left me hanging tonight.
Yeah, they did.
So we can maybe circle back on this.
Yeah, let's circle back
I can
on it.
reach out to, because I know you want to hear from the, you know, the development community, builders. You probably also want to hear from the ag community. And so I'll reach out to the Agricultural Advisory Board, their staff person, and see if we can get some folks here.
Alan back in there.
Yeah. So-
Do you
so-
have any idea how much farmland has been given up in the last 10 years?
I don't off the top of my head, but I think we do have those numbers. I can bring them back next month.
I'd be curious to find out.
Or I can
how much-
email them to you. I mean, I can
To
do
find
that.
out how much
Yeah.
farmland has been lost
Mhm.
in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I ain't got nothing against Alan, come to love Alan to death. But, you know, Alan's got the program that he's pushing that works real good and all. But, I'd like to see some other people, other farmers, get their take on it.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah, again, I think the best conduit for that may be for me to reach out to the Andrew Balcom, who's over Cooperative Extension. I'll reach out to him, see if he can put me in contact with people. I think we got some folks in the ag community that, you know, are plugged into the ag community on this board. You might also want to say something to.
Well, the other thing we need is maybe some of the younger up-and-coming farmers that are still working on creating a family.
Okay.
And get their feeling on it, because this affects them.
But just like Ryan just said, this is a really odd situation right here. This is not something,
Yeah.
we beat something to death that probably doesn't happen.
That's correct.
I mean,
Well, one thing I figured out though, everything you think won't happen will.
Changing it to not allow allowing it to happen then.
Yeah.
If we change it and say it's not allowed to happen, it shouldn't be an issue. Am I right?
So what,
I'd like to add, just, you know, my concerns would be, first and foremost, to, you know, protect, you know, personal property rights, especially the family. Because, you know, I know some, well, I got, you know, family friends that have done their own subdivision.
Mhm.
You know, some like, but yeah, then the developer side of it should definitely be addressed differently.
Okay.
And that's where I'm at. If it's one family, there's no issue.
Right.
That's your, it's your land, do what you want with it.
I've been doing this a long time in a lot of different local governments, and I came here, and this subdivision ordinance is tricky. It's very hard to understand in a lot of ways. It's taken me some time to get used to it. And it may be that, you know, you guys, if we could find some way to show you how it works in play, so, you know, maybe we can lay out the rules. I think it's a little hard for you to make decisions when you don't know what the result's going to be for, because sometimes it's an issue of scale. So you guys, you'll have a big parcel, developer comes in, they're going to automatically have to do all this stuff, 30% of the roads and everything else. I think the issue is when the parent parcel's been divided up enough times and you have somebody come in and they just want to take 3 parcels out and they can't do it without having to build a road or do the 30%. So to me, that's the scale issue maybe that would help if you saw some examples of like, okay, take this parcel, what happens when we divide it up this way? Is this person going to have to build a road at this point? Because that's what I see a lot of guys who just come in and say, hey, I just want to give my son a parcel. And then he finds out he's got to build a road to DOT standards because somebody's already taken 7 lots out. So there's got to be some kind of line of scale. So I don't know if the issue, like I think 8 is a pretty good number for a minor subdivision. Every town I've worked in has been 3 to 5. What they didn't have was the parent parcel rule. So that could be divided, you know, of course you guys have a lot more development than the area I was in. So I think maybe that's the stuff that would help some of the smaller folks is trying to draw a line of, okay, when do they have to do the 30% and when do they have to build the road? Because that seems to be one of the biggest issues as I see people coming in. Does that make sense?
You know, we've been sitting here talking about this, and I still don't fully understand this. So I'm gonna have to go home and read it. So
Sure.
that's the reason I'd
Yeah.
like to circle back on if we could.
And that's a good suggestion, John, is maybe to bring back a couple of examples, like real-world scenarios that we've actually dealt with. Because, I mean, we deal with this. I mean, it's what we do. It's why they hired us. We deal with this every day. And most days it's fine, but most days we don't have major issues come. But every once in a while, there'll be something that's kind of strange that, you know, maybe it is that 9th lot that all of a sudden, you know, they're having to do a road or something, or, you know, I know there's folks that have large pieces of property that are landlocked, that's just,
Yeah.
that's, you know, you don't have road frontage, so now all of a sudden you're even more limited. And I'm not gonna get into the specifics, but you might not even be able to do 8 lots in a scenario like that. You know, and there's multiple ways to address this. And I want to actually go back to kind of something Charles said a while ago is, you know, do you need a distinction between major and minor? And well, I think you probably do, mainly to help out people that are doing either smaller development, or they're just trying to give, you know, maybe they just need some money and they're selling a lot, or they're trying to give a lot to a kid or something like that. So that's the reason. But you could get into, and I've seen some other jurisdictions that do this, that look at almost like a tiered system of development. And what I mean by that is, if you want to do whatever the minimum requirement is, if you want to do, if you're RA 40 and you're going to do a bunch of 1 acre lots, then you got to meet all the rules. That's the minimum level of development. Kind of like when you're building a house. You know, I hate to use that scenario, but you know, you've got minimum code, and you know, you want to build it to minimum code, you're going to meet all these requirements. But if you had a system to where you say, all right, look, I'm going to do a subdivision and it's be optional, but I want to choose to make my lots bigger. I want to make my lots 2 acres. And maybe in a scenario like that, maybe kind of almost like a carrot because 2 acres is going to help preserve a little bit of that rural character. Those lots are bigger. Maybe you could reduce some of the requirements that go into that development. A 2 acre development is much less dense than a 1 acre development. So you're not going to have some of the like stormwater issues, for example, that you may have on a more denser type development. So maybe you could relax some standards. You could even go further and say, you know, look, if all my lots are, I'm just making up numbers here, 5 acres, then I can significantly reduce what you've got to do because you're lessening the impact to the neighbors.
That development in Waxhaw, that was the Borden problem at time, the animal thing. You remember? Okay. Isn't that development kind of large lots like that?
It is, yeah. So there used to be, and I don't know if that one was developed under this provision, but a long time ago there was a provision in the ordinance that essentially said don't quote me on this, but I believe it was if 90% of the lots in the development were 4 acres or more, then your road that you built to access that development didn't have to be built, like the right of way and everything else had to be designed to NCDOT standard, but it could just be a gravel road. You didn't have to pave it. Primary reason for that is if it's a 4 acre, if all lots 4 acres, it's probably not going to meet the density standards for DOT to take that road. That actually went away because what happened over time was people took advantage of it. And they're nice developments. I mean, you've got a lot of nicer 4 acre lots, big lots. You go back and they're wooded. They're very pretty. The issue that came up was in some of those developments, the HOA or whoever was responsible for maintaining that road, it fell apart. And nobody maintained that road. And some of those roads became almost impassable.
Well, that one we was talking about was one of them.
Yeah, well, there's an even worse one that's down in the same area. Years ago, they had to, somebody put up a barricade so you couldn't go down. Luckily, it was a loop. Barricade got put up because there was a culvert. It was never maintained that was at risk of falling in.
That was the one off of Marvin Road.
No, that's a different one. I know
you know
which one.
Let's come back to this, because we're going to have to enact the 10 o'clock rule here in a minute.
Yeah, there you go. I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, we need to carry on.
So what I'm hearing is that we probably want to bring this particular one back next month and hear from some different builders and some ag people.
Hey, Lee,
That
Cinderella's gonna turn into ugly stepdaughter here.
Yeah, we need to carry on, so we don't have to get to 10 o'clock.
That's good, okay. So.
Yeah.
We'll have to get on payroll.
So the next thing here is the major versus, this is what you guys have been talking about. Major versus minor lot threshold, that's the 5, 8, 10, however many, whatever number is right, and that parent parcel date. You have already dealt with that parent parcel date. We had a text amendment, you recommended approval, then we ran into some slight issues with how it impacted private drives, but we can get past this. But we can get past that. This is what you approved and you recommended to the Board of County Commissioners back probably 6, 8 months ago. So we did away, or the recommendation was to do away with that February 14th, 1978 date and essentially refer to a lot of record. And then we modified the definition of a lot of record. Essentially, it's an approved subdivision plat or a lot that's described by meets and bounds that's an exempt subdivision. So it's a legal lot. And then, prior to whatever date, that'd be whatever date the Board of County Commissioners adopted it. And then it would reset, and I think you settled on 10 years. Reset every 10 years from that adopted date. And what that does is it doesn't lock you in. It would lock you into a number, whether that's 5, 10, 8, 72, but that number would then reset so we could deal with the generational issues. And that's kind of what I think, Rick, what you're getting at is, you've got folks that when we have folks in the county that are up against that 8-lot rule because 1978, and I'll just personal, I was 2 years old in 1978. So if my parent or my grandparents would have given my parents a lot a couple years before I was born, and they had also given my dad's brothers a lot, then that's 3 right there. And then now I'm of the age where maybe my parents gave me a lot and my cousins also got a lot. So right now, just with my family, I'm already at 8. So when I come to give my kids, and my kids are old enough now, almost old enough now, to where I might want to give them property, we're in a major subdivision. So that's what I'm talking about with the generational thing. And that's why I think you settled on 10 years, because that sort of, it doesn't allow, somebody to abuse it, to come in and, every year it resets or every 6 months it resets. But looking at it on a 10-year basis, maybe that's enough to, it does address the family issue and somebody giving a lot to a kid. So this is the text you recommended several months ago to the board. And I think there might be one more slide. Yeah. So yeah, this just changed the definition of a subdivision from that 78 date again back to that lot of record. I think that's yeah. So I guess the reason I bring this up is, are you still comfortable with this amendment going forward to the board? Again,
with the 10 years?
Yeah. Recognize that we're going to have to still address that private drive issue, but I think that's minor, and we'll work that in when we bring it back.
Now, the 10 years, that's the right move.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
What is the drive issue, Reed?
You're allowed to do 2 lots on a private drive, and that's out of a lot of record. So by changing that definition of a lot of record, then we've got to go back and talk about some private drive issues. But we'll talk about that at another meeting, because I think we can. When I hear your feedback on a private drive, that's going to kind of inform me on what I need to do I need to leave it the same, or do we need to change that? And we'll talk about that at another meeting. But in concept, is the board still generally okay with this text amendment?
With the 10 years?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
I think we're all good with it.
Yes, sir. And
y'all good with it?
And maybe you want to table the lot threshold discussion. That's whether it ought to be 8 or 10 or 5 or 3 or whatever that number is. Do you want to table that until we can get some folks in here you can get some feedback from?
I have
think
one
that'd be a good
question
idea.
about it.
Yes, sir.
You was talking about some of the situations you were in that was like 3 to 5 lots, but there wasn't a parent lot thing. So if you had, let's just say you had 100 acres of land that was split up, then you could put 3 to 5 on every one that was split up as long as it had the acreage, correct? Well, see, we got to be careful with that too, because there's people going to be grabbing that loophole too.
Right, this was in Burke County where it wrote this document.
Yeah.
It's not. So I think the parent parcel idea is great. I think there's got to be a way to work around, so.
Yeah, I think we're better off with the 10-year thing than we would be to change that.
Yeah. So we can discuss the number at a later meeting when you get some feedback from some more people. I will tell you, just while I'm transitioning here, I was surprised when I did my research on some of this. I think a lot of planners think, you know, that number's 5. And it used to be, I know it used to be 5 was a general number you saw. But as I got into it, I saw some 8s, I saw some 10s, I saw some 3s. So and I did see a good number of 5s, but it's not as cut and dry as I thought it was at one time. And I wanted to bring up the topic of family subdivisions. Now, I want to preface this conversation by saying there's no real statutory, there's nothing in the general statutes that say you can do this. However, there are a good number of counties in North Carolina that have family subdivision exemptions. And so I've kind of gone through and looked at some of them. These 4 bullet points are the various criteria that these ordinances use. So you usually have a lineal descendant requirement. Usually it's 2 generations up or down. I have seen 1, but usually it's 2. So it can be a parent giving a lot to a kid or a grandparent. Or it could be a grandparent giving a lot to their kid or their grandchild. Or, again, it could work vice versa. Usually that's not how it is, but it could. There's usually a maximum number per year that you can give and or a maximum per lot of record. So that could work either way, however the board saw fit. Or there could be a maximum number over a certain number of years, kind of like how you're redefining the that parent parcel. So you could say you could do X number for 5 years, and then reset it another 5 years. It's usually some road frontage. Generally, that's whatever the underlying zoning requires. And there's some easement access requirements. So a lot of times, what happens on these family subdivisions is, in general, if you're dividing a piece of property that doesn't have road frontage, you're limited on the number of lots that can access that private drive. And that's mainly a public safety issue, because you want to be able to make sure that that road's maintained, that you can get an ambulance or a fire truck down there in case something bad happened. In a family subdivision, a lot of times what you see is they relax that standard. They say, all right, well, if it's a family member, we'll allow you to have more lots on a private drive. Doesn't change the fact that somebody might not maintain that road and something bad may happen, but I have seen that in these ordinances. And there are some ownership requirements. Usually it's if I gave my kid a lot, there's usually a requirement that he would have to own it for a certain number of years. I've seen everything from 5 to 10. I think that 5 to 10 year period is kind of common. So those are the general criteria that some of these things are. I have seen some ordinances that set standards for some of these roads that are built. I will say that's hard. That's hard for us to enforce. We have one engineer on staff in our office. He's a stormwater engineer. We don't have road engineers that work for the county. So I don't have somebody that can go out and inspect a road to make sure that it's built. If we specify some method, I don't have a person that can go out and look at that. I don't think the county wants to necessarily expand the number of staff we have to do that. The other thing that's kind of hard sometimes is this ownership requirement. That's hard to regulate. I'm not going out there and looking at deeds every day to see, are they still in compliance? Did they sell their property? I don't want to do that. That's in my opinion, that's pretty invasive. But if you put it in an ordinance, we have a responsibility to enforce it. And if it's a family subdivision, you probably should have something in your ordinance that says that family member actually owns it. Otherwise, it could be abused. So I just throw that out because there's some inherent kind of issues with enforcing some of this stuff. I don't know if John's ever worked in a jurisdiction that had this. I did, and I've seen times when the worst ones are divorces. I've seen it. You get a divorce, kid, you know, if I got a lot and I went through a divorce and now all of a sudden judge orders that I'm not the one that owns that property anymore and my ex-wife owns it, and it's parents out there, I have seen situations where people will call and they will say they're in violation of your subdivision rules because that's not your kid. And that puts county staff in a really weird spot. So just throw that out there. I mean, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I just want you to understand all the ramifications of it. So hearing that, is this it? There you go. There you go.
Could you email this that we just gone through?
I will. Yeah, I didn't have time to get it in your package, and I apologize for that. But
Oh, no, that's fine.
is this something? Hearing this, is this something that you feel like you want to look at in further depth and maybe move toward?
I think,
Okay.
yeah, somehow.
Good. All right.
But if you could email this to us, the
I
whole
will.
presentation you just made, then we could all look at it and study it a little bit
Okay.
more.
And-
And then
and-
come up with some questions.
And what I'll do for the next meeting then, I'll have this and the
We
lot
need to come up
threshold.
with a starting date on that.
I'm sorry?
We need to redo that date to where we come up with a starting date. So we start right now, 10 years from now is when it can go.
So that starting date would be whatever day the Board of Commissioners adopts it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Something needs to be adopted there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring back, the family subdivision, and kind of the way I'm looking at that is I'll try to bring back maybe a chart. I'll look at some of our peer counties. I've already done this kind of at a high level, but I'll boil it down and kind of break it up into these sort of 4 topics and kind of show you how some different peer counties are already doing this, and kind of show you how they're working, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. I'll bring back the lot threshold issue. That way we can get some input from builders and ag community, and we'll bring back this definition of lot and get some input on that one as well. I think that'll probably, for next time, take up most of our discussions. So I'll limit it to that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to offer a couple of thoughts for y'all to think about between now and the next meeting. Number one, God gave Moses only 10 commandments to cover life. We are dealing with hundreds and thousands trying to tweak all these rules, and look at the time we're spending. The other thing I want to share is what I shared at our January county meeting with our 3 guest speakers, our 2 representatives for Union County, Dean Arp and David Willis, and our Senator Todd Johnson, because they brought up about the issue in the legislature about development and so on. And Dean Arp mentioned the word liberty, so when we got to the question and answer period, I said, remember, our Constitution was ordained and established to secure our rights to life and liberty. That is government's primary responsibility. And liberty means that's every citizen's right to make their own decision, not government making it for them, which is what we're mostly about here. I said, what I'm urging you to do is every bill that comes up before the legislature, look at it, and if it fringes on local decision-making, say, we can't consider this bill, it goes against the Constitution. And so I'm saying, keep in mind, the primary responsibility of government is to secure citizens' rights to make their own decisions, not us spending all this time with all these rules, making decisions for them.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, Ryan, we would appreciate if you could get some other builders to come in at our next meeting and just give us some feedback. Because the decisions we make is going to affect everybody.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Jensen, do you have anything else?
Not on this topic, no.
Okay.
And I'll be extremely brief.
Okay.
On my next one. So planning update, I don't think any decisions have been made by the Board of County Commissioners. We did have the public hearing on the Augustine property last night. Didn't make any decisions on that. The board did approve 5 of the recommended strategies in the rural land use plan last night. There were a couple that were kind of tabled for some other things. And then I know a couple of you reached out to me regarding a cemetery that got moved. It was not in the county's jurisdictions. It was inside the city of Monroe. But I did a little research on it just to kind of tell you how that works. There are state rules that come into play if you want to actually move a cemetery. And if you don't know the one I'm talking about, if you're on Secret Shortcut, it's right behind Food Lion. So there's a cemetery that sits out in the middle of that field that was recent. I actually saw it. I saw it happen. I dropped my dog off at doggy daycare, and that's the way I come in when I do that. And I saw them. I saw them pulling a casket out of the ground and loading it on a truck. But there are rules that the state imposes if you move a graveyard. We do maintain a map in our office of known cemeteries in the county. There's a lot. There was a cemetery survey done back in the 80s, and we took that and we mapped it based on lat long coordinates, and we actually went out and proofed most of them. Bjorn actually, he's the one that took that project on, and he actually got in his car and he drove out, and the ones he found, he actually coded as these are known. We know exactly where they are. There were a number that we can't find, that we don't know. You know, we went out to those coordinates and didn't see anything. It could be because we couldn't get to it. A lot of these places were overgrown, not maintained very well. I will tell you that anytime there's a development in the county that has a known graveyard, we do consult that map. So when we get subdivisions or commercial developments that come in the county, we pull that map out, we look at it, and if we think there's one on that property, we'll ask the developer, we'll ask the property owner, hey, do you know about this cemetery? And usually we can get that cemetery kind of set aside as open space. And a couple of them, I don't recall the name of the development, but it's off of Cuthbertson Road. If you turn on Cuthbertson off of Newtown, the development's on the left, and that neighborhood has done a really good job. It was set aside as in the neighborhood common area, but that neighborhood kind of took it upon themselves to kind of decorate it and make it and upkeep it, and it looks really very nice. But we've had a couple of instances where that's happened. I don't know, if anything could be done at a local level to prevent that, since it's kind of a state regulated item. But I just want to let you know, since a couple of you reached out to me about that particular one getting moved, I want to let you know that kind of how those structures are working, kind of how we deal with it on a county level. So.
Anything else?
That's it.
Do you have any planning staff report?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What,
I kind of jumped ahead, I'm sorry.
Any brief comments anyone wants to make?
Let's go home.
All right, do I hear a motion that we conclude the meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Yes,
sir. Thank you, guys. See y'all.
Yes, sir.